Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everybody, we're live. We're mid off-air conversation, and Elise said maybe you should just go live and just let's bring
let's just air our airs.
Absolutely. So, welcome back, Corey Poirier with bLU Talks here today. Here with my co-host Elise Rothman and a fellow bLU Talks author, soon to be fellow bLU Talks speaker, Darlene Waye. We're going to bring Darlene on fully in a second, but just wanted to kind of welcome everybody and say thank you again for joining us today. Thank you with the book series. I think Darlene, actually, you're in the first one. So the first one, the first one is a bestseller. Well, it hasn't left the charts on some categories, which is so
really
cool. 5 months. It's the first one I've ever seen stay on that long, and it just now got this little rejuvenation because we released books 2 and 3. And of course, when somebody sees your book series, goes, "Oh, wait, there's more." And so now Kelly Filardo, who's going to be joining us tomorrow as a surprise guest. Surprise, surprise. But Kelly helps us on the book side. And she sent me a screenshot yesterday, which she posted inside our private group, that all 3 books at one point yesterday were on the charts, 1, 2, and 3 at the same time.
I saw that.
3 books. And so super cool to see that stuff happening. So I just want to thank people for helping us get the latest 2 books to international bestseller status. All 3 now have been #1 international bestsellers. But what I pride myself on with bLU Talks is it's also sustaining, meaning like you see launches, and there's nothing wrong with this, but where people focus on getting that 1 hour where you're on the charts. And at this point, I think we've been since Friday or something. So even just at this point, we're 5 days. And if you go right now, I think at least two of the books, at least in .ca or .com, one or the other, are #1 in categories right now. And they went on the charts late Thursday night, early Friday. And this book, like I said, it's mid-September and it's still on the charts. You can literally go and check that out. So I'm really excited about that because it's one thing to have a best-selling book, but it's another thing to actually have a book that stays there. And so that speaks to all the people that are involved in this community. So that's just a side note for me to kick things off. But yeah, the book 2 and 3 is out now. It's perfect segue and timing to bring Darlene on because she was in book 1. And Elise, before we fully dive into bringing Darlene on, is there anything else you want to share since yesterday, or anything else you wanted to say in terms of a welcome just before we dive right in?
Yeah, I'd love to welcome everybody. If you weren't with us yesterday, I would hop onto the replay because it was amazing. We had some amazing guests and it was a great kickstart to 2021. You know, flipping your script this year, like starting like right now and recognizing that we have an internal script that's either keeping us waiting or inspiring us to keep creating. And so this is a great week to be able to listen to all these amazing thought leaders and individuals who have found ways to flip their script. And they're going to share these seeds of knowledge and thought and perspective with us. And I do also want to share, because I really have intended to, and haven't really shared the whole year, but we have Flip Your Script bands. They're 2021 Flip Your Script bands. And they're a reminder that the thoughts that we think are the paintbrushes on the canvas of the life and the reality that we're living. So we can put that maybe in the comments to go to yumlife.us, which is my parent company, and get one of these bands. Get them for your friends. Like, they're so simple. And I use mine all the time. I created it for me, really. And now I'm just sharing it with all of you.
Well, one quick question on that, at least, since you mentioned it, when you say 2021, like, are they new ones that you've ordered, like actual 2021?
No, but I'm just smart. Right now we're in 2021. These are timeless. I mean, I've had my band for years, but 2021 is now a great opportunity. We've recognized the challenges that we've had in 2020. It's been very apparent to almost all of us, right? And so now is an opportunity to use that perspective as a springboard to really start becoming the creator of the life that you can have, we can all have, when we believe we can. And so it starts with a thought. So now they're 2021. Get your 2021 Flip Your Script fans.
I love
can bring
it.
them to 2022, 23, 24, as long as you need them.
Well, and on that note, this is a good segue to bring our guest to the forefront, because you mentioned, I think we're all fully aware. I feel like if you haven't been fully aware, either you've been on, as they always like to say, under a rock, or you've been hypnotized by somebody. So,
or we don't remember the details of it, but we definitely get the feeling of what's uncomfortable for us. We might not remember or know why, but we all get a feeling, and we're like, if we don't know, it's even more frustrating. So I think Darlene is able to help individuals who aren't fully aware right? Be able to get to the root of what's happening.
Absolutely. And so, Darlene, where we start with these each time, because I always feel it comes better from the person that we're actually talking with and presenting to tell us a little bit about themselves, because we're going to dive in no matter what anyway. But as far as your backstory, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your backstory for those listeners and viewers who are discovering you today, and then we'll dive right in?
Sure, I'd love to. Who I am? Well, I've been many people throughout this lifetime. I've had many different chapters, and I'm happy to be in this one. And I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 3 children. I'm a stepmother of 1 stepson who's been in my life since he's 3. And I'm a hypnotist. I'm a consulting hypnotist and NLP practitioner and life coach. And I operate my business out of Prince Edward Island, Canada. And I am now going virtually to the world. So anybody that's out there and wants to do business with me, I'm able to do business over Zoom now, which is really quite nice and easy. And I do it from the comfort of my home now, since the pandemic moved me home. I moved out of my downtown office and moved into my home office, which I very much love being here and doing my business from here. What else do you need to know? I met Corey. I think we decided it was 2009 when he ran Island Business News, which was a small newspaper for businesses in Prince Edward Island. So I bought advertising from him then. And really, our relationship has grown throughout the years, and we've done, he's made me an international best-selling author 2 times. And we're going to do the 3rd and the 4th this year, aren't we, Corey?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I am a person that likes to help other people make changes in their lives, is really who I am. My background is I've had many different careers. I started the Merry Maids franchise back here in PEI in 91, and I ran that for 5 years. So I knew how to start a business. So, and then I went back to school at the age of 40 and became a child and youth care worker. So I worked at Child and Family for 10 years. And then one day I went to a meeting with Child and Family, and the gentleman that was facilitating the meeting, he just happened to mention to me that he had just become a hypnotist. And I was intrigued. I was so intrigued because I had stopped smoking probably 20 years previous to that with the help of hypnosis. So I knew it worked, but I didn't know that you could train to be a hypnotist. So at that point, I went home and I researched it. And I talked to my oldest daughter in Toronto, and she researched it too. And we figured out what school we wanted to go to. And she actually beat me to the punch. She took her hypnosis training first. But it just intrigued me more because she loved it and she loved the instructor. And it was just a really good experience for her. So I went in February of that year. And from the time that I had that conversation with the gentleman to the time I opened the doors to my downtown office was 13 months. So having the education of being a child and youth care worker, I already had my counseling skills. So it wasn't a big step to go into something else like that. And I had already started a business before, so that really didn't scare me too much either. So I took the plunge, and here I am 11 years later, and have helped many of my clients do so many different things that it's just amazed me with their successes. And I'm amazed by their successes all the time. And really, it's become easy now to be in business because I'm known for who I am. I'm Darlene the hypnotist in PEI. So now I'm going to be Darlene the hypnotist to US and Canada too, probably, right?
I love it. And Darlene, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'm going by memory on this, but I feel like you were also in a co-author of a book with a bunch of really big name thought leaders. I remember this from a long time ago.
There it is right there. I thought that might come in handy today. So I'm a co-author with Barack Obama, David Brooks, Ted Turner, Marianne Williamson, Al Gore, George Bush, Tony Blair, and many other famous people, and me.
You definitely should make sure that's on your bio, because that's, that I remember I seen that one day. And by the way, I saw it somewhere, you posted it once. And
Oh, really?
I don't remember it.
Okay, good.
I remember those things, because whether we like it or not, we're in that society where you hear this person shared the bill with Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, you just upped your game, girl.
Did I? Good.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, what?
Good. Anyway, that book was really instrumental in my growth to becoming a hypnotist, because I sold this story. It was a 2-page story, and I was given $1,200 for that 2-page story. So that was really my airfare to go back and forth to Toronto for my training to become a hypnotist.
That's a great story.
That's what it was used for. So,
wow. I have to say,
that's a great story right there. There you go. Package that right there.
Yeah, package that. And I'm going to give you another one too, because maybe you have the thing that I was just watching this somewhere. I heard this today. I don't know if it was on the episode, but if you watch Seinfeld, with Jerry, everything always comes back to balanced. Like, in other words, if he throws, I don't know if you remember, there was an episode where he was figured out that everything always equaled up for him. So Lane and George are always high and low, but Jerry, he said, everything always balances back up for me. So he said, let's test this. And he threw a $20 bill out the window, and then he goes to put it on his jacket, and he goes, hey, look, a $20 bill, type thing. And it made me think of this, Darlene. Maybe that's your thing, because you were in the book, and then it paid for your airfare. And then that reminds me of something else I was going to mention, which is you came into our speaking program, and then you ran an event based on what we were teaching at the time at a local chamber, I remember, and you opened it up kind of to the public, and people could buy hypnosis sessions from you. And at the time, I remember you told me that basically the amount of people that signed up essentially paid for the program.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So maybe you're the girl. Like, it always just bounces back out for Darlene.
It does. It certainly does.
I love that.
And certainly, beginning a business and everything, like, I am a single person, so I maintain all the bills myself to my home and to my office. So during COVID, I realized that I couldn't do both, and not be able to see clients. So, that made me pivot to my home office, which was, I can only look at it as the biggest blessing of COVID for me, because I probably wouldn't have gotten off that hamster wheel of just, keeping things maintained all the time. And whereas this, I don't have to work as hard anymore. And I can do it from the comfort of my own home. And I can go garden in between clients if I want to, or throw in a load of laundry. And it is lovely.
It's funny that you just mentioned garden, because in my head I'm going, some of the best gardens, the most reaped harvests come from the stinkiest fertilizer, right? So you're talking about gardening. When I just was having this conversation with a client yesterday, we were just kind of chatting a little bit, like, after a session, and we were like, if you think about it, there's so many beautiful seeds that have been sown in 2020 that are really growing and blossoming. And they started to take root and seed and blossom in 2020 as well. And it was really fertilized with a lot of stinky crap, right? Yeah. I mean, there was some stinky crap going on, and I would use the SH word, but I don't know if I can. And so that was the fertilizer for all these seeds that we all planted, because we needed that to be able to really, like, get off the seed or get into the home office or whatever it is. So gardening is, pertinent. Like, we were all gardening in 2020. So what's growing for you,
Yeah. No. And really, it's been lovely in the way that, I'm not spread between 2 places anymore. And I don't have 2 buildings to look after and 2 gardens to look after, because I garden down at my downtown office too. And I'm an award-winning gardener too.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Yeah. I've won awards twice for the downtown garden. So I've given that up to, a gentleman that moved into the building after I moved out. So he's going to do a great job from now on. So,
well, we're looking for somebody with a good green eye. So if you want to come, we have a cute little retreat that we just bought in Weeki Wachee, Florida. And we want to plant, everything that we plant is going to be edible. So we want
nice.
all of our landscaping to be edible. Now,
Nice.
I'm intending that the people show up that know exactly what to do. I have the vision.
They will. They always do.
So I'm ready for the papayas and the fig trees and the oranges or whatever to show up.
I don't know anything about Florida gardening. Not at all.
Well, I'm ready to learn.
Well, and it's funny, Darlene, just to back up what we were saying there about you up-leveled as soon as you shared that. One of the first comments made right after was impressive, Darlene. Wow. So I just wanted to revalidate with your book, going back to that for a second, because I just saw that comment. They said, impressive, Darlene. Wow. And just to add to that, one of the other things that I noticed, I was on your website taking a peek around, and I noticed all of the different credentials that you have, like certifications and programs and courses. Just as a kind of a backup to that, NLP was one of them, and also certified rewind technique practitioner. I don't even know what that is. The Dale Carnegie program you're in. And so my question out of that is, we see this a lot, at least people that come on here are lifelong learners and they believe in investing in themselves. And it seems like you do as well, Darlene. I guess my question out of that is, why is that important to you? Why do you invest in yourself?
I invest in myself because I just always want to do something different. Like it has been a growth thing. And just for my history a little bit, I was a single mom at the age of 17. My oldest daughter is now, well, she's a little 17 years younger than me. I'm not allowed to say the age in case she's watching. But my oldest daughter, I was 17 when she was born. So I was a high school dropout at that time. And I went to work at the Peter Pan restaurant. Do you remember that restaurant? Yeah, I went to work there, and I worked there for 3 years. And then I decided, okay, time to go back to school. So I went back to school and did upgrading, got my grade 12, and then I just kind of worked for a while. But I started taking courses after my first divorce, which I was a single parent of a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old at that point. And I was also started the Mary Mays franchise at that point too. So I was giving her. I had teams in both towns, Summerside and Charlottetown. So, but what I did was I went to school in the evenings. I did 2 evenings a week and did a lot of courses that way. And it really did, well, there's always growth in learning. Like you can't stop learning, or you're just sitting there being a lump on the couch, really. It's the way I feel. And I've, continued on. Like when I was working, I was usually taking courses, and I still am, Corey, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love it. Like I love, moving up a little bit more into what I know. I think if a day goes by and you're not learning something, it's a wasted day, really.
That's a great line. I love that.
Do you? Good.
Yeah. If it goes by and you're not learning, it's a waste of day. And just as for people on here that aren't from PEI and may never care me adding this in, the Peter Pan restaurant that Darlene referred to existed forever in my life, and just like, what was it, last year? I think it was just demolished, and it was such a sad moment.
It was torn down last year.
Yeah, it hadn't been.
It was a sad moment.
But I drove by and I saw the sign or something that it was a demolition area or something, and then I saw it in the paper, and I was like, it's just funny how these moments in our life. But it's funny for somebody that's not from here. If you drove by, you'd be like, that's what you're talking about. Like it's just like a little triangle looking restaurant.
Yeah.
Like a little A-frame.
An A-frame is what it was. Yeah.
And then it said Peter Pan, and it was like a kind of a loose reference to Peter Pan. And anyway, and I loved it. Like the food was, it was definitely like island greasy food. Like,
oh, yes. The best Captain Hook burgers ever. Captain Hook burgers, right?
Yeah, Captain Hook burgers, and the traditional scallop burger. And I think they even had the lobster rolls and stuff. I'm getting hungry just talking about it.
Scallop burger. That's not traditional where I come from.
Oh, it's awesome.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. They have burger love here in the island. Once a year, it's for the whole month. A bunch of different restaurants all have their own burger, and that's the one I always would go for, is the scallop burger. I don't even scallop or scallop. What's that, at least?
It sounds yummy.
It is.
But anyway, Peter Pan is no longer. But yes, I totally, just like Darlene sent me a message the other day, and we've shared this here, I think, before. My grandfather built a fiberglass space shuttle replica, one of only 6 in the world, in PEI as well. It used to be an amusement park. And Darlene just shared a message with me about, I forget, what was it? They were talking about how it was like, it was more of a reference to the aliens or something, I think.
Yes,
like,
I think it was, yeah. But I knew that you would like to have that forwarded to you, so.
Yeah, it's just like a reference saying, here's where the aliens were on the island. Because it's like, they also brought in the aquarium, or whatever, not aquarium, the, what was the globe that used to be at UPEI? The, anyway, the science center thing, you know, like you look up at the stars.
Oh, the planetarium.
That's
I
it.
was trying to think of that word. It was lost
you.
on me. They brought in a planetarium, and just this is a really cool story, but the guy who ran the shuttle, he commissioned my grandfather to build it. He gave him a piece of, wrote on a piece of paper, like a cigarette pack. He wrote a circle. He basically drew a shuttle, and he goes, here you go, Eddie, there's your blueprints, and bear in mind, it's not to scale. My grandfather was a carpenter with a grade 3 education, and that was his blueprints. And this Bart guy, the guy that did it, also took the planetarium from the local university. They didn't want it anymore, but they said, if you have it, you have to pick it up and take it yourself. So he went there, took it all apart piece by piece, marked the numbers, drug it all the way down to this other place, and put it back together piece by piece with numbers.
Wow.
Anyway, just a cool island story. So
It is.
It's just a cool story.
your island history for the day. Anyway,
Yeah.
and I'm going to post the note, the Peter Pan picture in the comments so people can see it. I'll move away from that for now. But Darlene, so I love that in terms of the fact that you keep on investing in your learning and realizing how important it is. What about the hypnosis side? I mean, is hypnosis, I'm just curious on this, but is this something where once you know how to do it, you pretty much can't learn anything new? Or is hypnosis one of those things where there's always new things to learn? And I'm totally naive in this, so.
There's always new things to learn. Like really, I'm learning every day. And I know when I first started my business, like I would see clients throughout the day and I tried to figure out what they needed to work on, but I'd go home and I'd study before the next day of what I had to do for this client that was coming tomorrow. I don't have to do that anymore because it's easy and I know where everything is and I've done it so many times before now that it's just almost unconscious what I do. So, but at first, you know, but we're all a fake until we start doing it for a while, right?
We were just talking about this yesterday. I don't know about being a fake, but I was referencing Margaret Lynch, and I think it was tapping for financial success, or I don't know, it was an event, but she was doing a virtual event before all these virtual events came to be, right? You could either go live if you missed your ticket, whatever. And she was talking about, you know, I was becoming an EFT practitioner and I was like really focusing on the psychology of disease and anatomy of, you know, all the mind. And one of the things that she said was like, just own it. If you're a coach or a practitioner of something, you don't have to have this many clients under your belt or have this many hours. Just own who you are. And when you start owning who you are, you become it.
And you do.
So I like to take that approach because if I'm faking it, I'm all like, oh, where's my integrity in that? Like, so I'm like, I'm just going to own it.
Yeah, well, that's a better way to say it. But I know that I certainly have felt like that fake a few times too.
Well,
in those moments, just recognize that I'm just owning it while I'm figuring it out.
Exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a comedian, again, Darlene, you may know this name, at least maybe not. His name is Jerry D. He's a comedian who won or came in second on Last Comic Standing, which was a North American show. That's the only reason I say you may or may not know.
What season was that, though? Was it the last season?
I feel like it was the first or second season. It was
maybe
early.
Because that name sounds familiar. But anyway.
Yeah, he's actually hosts the Canadian Wheel of Fortune now. He's the host of Canada's
No
Wheel
way.
But anyway, Jerry D, one thing he said to me in an interview a long time ago, and I never forgot it, is he was a teacher before he was a comedian. Actually, I think he did both of them at the same time. But he was a generalist teacher. You know, the teachers that teach like 12 different classes or 12
like
different
liberal arts or whatever.
Yeah, I think what do they call it? I think in PEI when I was at school, I forget but it was like a generalized or general
gen ed,
general education or something like that teacher. And so it meant that he would teach like fitness or gym, and then he would also teach math and then English. And he said, when it's something like that versus somebody who just focused on math, the person that just focused on math probably knows it all inside and out. But he said, when you're the general teacher starting out or a substitute, all you have to be is one chapter ahead of your students. And he said that's all I ever tried to do. So, and he said, then you get that friggin' kid that was the eager learner. And he's like, what if in chapter 6 they say this? He said, Billy, stop misbehaving or I'll send you to the principal's office. And mainly he was on chapter 4 and he didn't know what was in chapter 6. But the point is he was saying you just have to be a chapter ahead. So if you're taking hypnosis and you're teaching people, or I mean, like you're practicing on people, you're obviously probably a chapter ahead of them, Darlene. Yes, so that's how I look at it. As long as you're ahead, then you can teach it. But the other side, and this is a whole other conversation around the authentic or all that kind of stuff and having filters off, as long as you're not saying you're something you're not. That's the big one. Like you can say I'm a hypnosis because you went through, and I'm talking even in your first 3 months, but to then make up something and say, I was on a cruise ship doing hypnosis and you weren't. That is the inauthentic, or somebody that films a video.
That's kind of a lie.
That's the fake, isn't it? Yeah, that's
the real fake. Like there's people that have filmed videos. We know this happens in front of cars and mansions they don't own, implying that they own them and running a program that you'll sign up for because you want to have the mansion that they don't really own.
Yeah.
That to me is like when you say fake, that's what I think of immediately, because there's lots of those people.
Yeah.
Worse than that, they're trying to get somebody else to sign up and spend their money with them to achieve something they don't even own. And I always say what we don't get to see is when they shut the camera off and the guy runs out of the mansion and with a gun in his hand and says, "Get off my lawn and stop filming those freaking videos."
Yes, I don't see that. No.
So I've been blessed to have attracted the authentic, beautiful, connected beings. So I don't know any of those guys that you're talking about.
No.
And you better not to. But you know what? It's good for us to know that exists, though, I think, because then we know due diligence. Like if you're going to hire somebody for social media, and I've run into this with social media because it's such a gray area. I've hired people for social media, and I'll correct that. I hired and they misled and they really hit it well. But there were a couple that wanted me to hire them for social media, and they're like, "I'm going to teach you how to do this and this." And the first thing I do, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go on their social media page. So if they're saying, I'm going to get you 80% engagement, then I want to see if they're getting that themselves. Mm-hmm. And in both cases, neither of them were. And their argument to that was, well, I'm too busy doing it for other clients. And I said, well, that's fine. Just send me along 5 people I can talk to and talk to them about your experience with them. Well, I don't believe in sharing my clients' names because privacy. Like, so in other words, once you do those 2 steps, you're already telling me.
Yeah.
All I need to know.
All right, let's flip the script on this conversation.
Okay.
Back to the amazing people that we all know, just like Darlene. So can I ask Darlene a question?
Oh yeah, for 100. That's what this is all about.
So do you have a sweet spot? Like, do you have like people that that you love to work with? Not like a specific individual, but something that may be like an opportunity to overcome. Like, is there an area that resonates with you more? Like for me, chronic pain and families coming together, like that's my sweet spot. So I'm just wondering if you have.
Okay, probably my ideal client would be somebody that was going through a breakup and is probably brought to their knees and really needs to be lifted back up. And I know the way because I've been there and done that a few times.
Yeah, usually we can relate, right? It's something we've gone through.
Yeah. And I love to help build people up. Like I see the transformation in my clients from the day that they first come to see me until the next day that they come to see me. Like it's just amazing sometimes what one session can do with hypnosis. And it's been said by some people, and I don't know what the exact source is, that 6 sessions of hypnosis is equal to 50 sessions of talk therapy.
Oh, girl, I could believe even more talk therapy. We keep talking about what we don't want and wondering why we're not getting what we do want. Like, it's a good business model because it keeps you coming back.
Exactly. Whereas I need to have new clients all the time because my clients usually move forward and solve their issues. And, they may come back to me in a year's time or 2 years' time with another issue that is coming up. But generally, I'm able to move my clients forward in a space of 5 sessions, which is really, amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Truly amazing. I have my clients record all their sessions. I don't keep the recordings. I'm like, it's for you because I want you to go back after the 3rd session or 4th session of being in chronic pain for 20 years. And now you feel great. You can't come and say it didn't matter. Go back and listen to your first session.
Yeah, really.
So they listen to all their sessions. I don't know if that's something you could do in hypnosis, but it's great because they can go back they could be in the moment, go back then and listen to it over and over again if they need to?
Well, I don't record the talk part of our session, like where we're communicating back and forth to each other and talking about the problem.
Right.
But I record the hypnosis part of the session.
Oh, that's perfect.
And I send it to my clients on their email. So that way they can rehypnotize themselves at home whenever they want to. And usually what most people do is put it on at night when they're going to sleep and just kind of fall asleep to it. And that way it reinforces the work that we do here in the office. And I really do see a difference in the clients that do listen and don't listen. Like I really do.
Take notes. Like my clients will take notes, and I always, because I do EFT, I'm an EFT practitioner.
Okay.
So I'm always like I always guide them.
Yeah.
So if it's just audio, they know, and they can they can go through the session again and reapply and continue to clear. Yeah. And the ones that do, and the ones that write out the pieces, the things that resonate with them, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I would probably be a little weirded out if I knew the numbers of people that I talk into sleep every night.
I never thought about that for you.
Because there's probably
how many beds are you in at night, girl?
Well, I could be in lots of beds every night.
You sleeping around, Darlene?
Yeah. Only with my audio.
In a good way, though.
Yeah, only with my audio recording.
Sleeping around.
Yes, exactly. So as far as hypnosis goes, like hypnosis is such a great tool of therapy because it's in the way that we're recognizing the problem, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time figuring out whose problem it was, why it is a problem. You know, we're not going to spend too much time doing that.
I like the way you work.
Yeah, what we want to do is work towards what you want to have.
Like, who cares? If a genie came down and said, you have one wish, would you say, why is this happening to me? Now what? No. Like, now you know. Okay, so now what are we going to do? I would be like, what is it that I can do to move through whatever this is and get to where I want to be?
Yeah, exactly. So with many of my clients, I might start with a dumping session. So what I call a dumping session would be, I would relax them into hypnosis and then I would have them imagine a garden. And, you know, everybody's garden's going to look different in their head, right? So in this garden, there's going to be leaves scattered around on the ground of the garden. And these leaves are going to represent all the hurts and frustrations from your life, past and present. Now, I usually go through a list of things they could be. What means something to the client, they'll think about. What means nothing, just kind of let it go by the wayside. But they gather up these leaves and then burn them out of their lives. And then there's a part where they're infused with good energy and an opportunity to plant new seeds. And these new seeds can represent anything that they wish them to represent, but have them plant those new seeds in this garden. So I usually start with that with many of my clients. And that's such a good way to start because you're dumping all that stuff, you know?
I call them thought weeds.
Yeah.
You're pulling the thought weeds and you're planting mind seeds.
Exactly.
I call those seeds that you plant with your clients. In my coaching practice, we call them mind seeds. Yeah. So they're new seeds that you plant in your fertile mind and watch grow, which I'm going to ask you for a mind seed to share with all of our viewers before we come to our close. So I'm sure you have many.
I don't know what I might have.
Yes, you've already had some nuggets that you shared with us.
Yeah. So hypnosis is such a great tool to work on so many things, like fears and phobias, fears of needles, fear of driving, fear of, well, just about anything. It could be fear of relationships. It could be fear of intimacy. It could be like, you name it. There is a script for it, really. Anxiety and panic. That is a really big thing that myself as a hypnotist has worked with. And I've seen my clients transform. Like, I know one particular client that I saw when I first started my business. Her mother actually called and said, I don't know how she's living because she's in such anxiety and panic all the time. Like, I don't know how she's still operating. So the first time she came to see me, she was really stressed out and couldn't leave her home. She was trapped in her home unless, couldn't be there alone, couldn't go out to do anything, was really living in this shell of a life. And we did sessions over a period of time, and she began to feel better. And now 10 years later, she's gone through some really difficult times, and I've been there to help her through them. But she's now married and has a little girl, and that wouldn't have even been in her forethought of being able to do that years ago. So when you see transformations like that take place, and really it's not any magic that I'm doing. Hypnosis is not that magic thing that you think that we're doing on the stage. Like, I'm for therapeutic uses is what I do hypnosis for. So all hypnosis is really self-hypnosis. And all that I'm really doing is teaching you how to use the power of your own mind. That's all I'm doing.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, it's not any magic I'm doing at all. I'm just teaching you how to use the power of your own mind to make the changes possible.
You're like a tour guide for the mind.
I pretty much am. Yeah, I pretty much
Come
am.
on, I'm going to take you on a journey so you can find the places, the hidden gems.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Because we all have those hidden gems, and
Yes.
really, when a person is feeling so low, you need a little help getting built back up, and you need directions of somebody that has probably gone through that journey themselves. And listen, I've gone through lots of journeys.
I know you didn't get a get out of being human free card either, did you?
I certainly did not. And I'm still dealing with stuff too, it's not like I have a perfect life.
I know. I'm always like, I thought I was going to get a get out of being human free card for the knowing that I know. And it was like, nope, on the contrary, you get to go through all of it. So you can say, I understand.
I certainly, yeah. I feel like
paralyzed.
I have been there.
I understand. Chronic pain. Yep. I understand. Anxiety. Oh, yep. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So
very much so. So my journey through this lifetime has really gifted me with many things to help my clients. It really has. Mm-hmm. I've experienced many different things, 2 divorces. I have 3 baby daddies.
You go, girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was a young mom at 17, but I was an old mom at 42 also. So, my obstetrician used to call me a geriatric patient. Awful.
Really? I would say that you were an anomaly.
Anyway, I don't regret a thing. It's been a wonderful life with all these hills and valleys. It has been a wonderful life.
Well,
and I'm not
glad
done
that
yet.
It brought you here.
Pardon me?
We're glad that it brought you here.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really happy that it brought me here.
Corey, you're a magnet for magnificent.
Oh, well, I have to say, one of the things that I don't know why it popped into my head now, but as at least, especially you more than most know, if it pops into my head, I feel I have to share it. Like, I'm just that person where there's a reason why the universe put it in there. And one of the things I have to
no one.
Yeah, well, I guess well, and I just want to give a shout out to so many amazing, and I say this in a bigger scheme of things in general as well, but so many amazing females that have been a part of bLU Talks. And the reason I bring this up is because running this speaking program for quite a while, one of the complaints I got from other people were there's not enough female speakers out there owning the stage. And it wasn't a comment on females not being out there. It was just that it's really flooded with male speakers. And a lot of that's just because that's the pattern that existed long before. But in the speaking program, I was starting to see that change. Like, our numbers in the speaking program, if I go back from day one, is probably 50-50, male and female. It started a little bit more skewed to male, and then it switched. But when I look at bLU Talks, it's like 75-25, female to male. And I just want to, give a shout out because I think that's a good sign of the times. And as a male, I'm not saying it doesn't diminish the males in any way at all within bLU Talks or males in general. But I just think it's really important to take a second to think about the fact that, there's a lot of females now that are rising up and saying, I'm this person. And as you said, Elise, I'm going to own it. And I'm going to do my part in taking over the world. And I don't know why it just popped in my head, but maybe, Darlene, you're talking about your journey. Mentioned being a single mother. I was raised by a single mother. Maybe that's a part of it. But I didn't.
I'm a single mother. I know I never talk about it, but I have a beautiful 26-year-old. And if you would know the story about how I became a single mom in the States, you could write a Not Without My Daughter story. I never talk about that, but it's a good story. We'll have to
Well, you should share that.
Yeah.
And I have to add
now
that
I can, because the time has passed enough where we're all good.
yeah, that's the key thing. You have to be, whatever you're going to share, you have to be passive. You have to have made peace with it to some degree, or learn from it.
Or just know that the time has passed before you make it public and it could be an issue.
Yeah, for them and for you, really.
Right, exactly.
But I want to add too, important note there is I didn't purposely go, okay, I'm going to reach out to more female leaders than males. This is how it all grew. So this just shows me that there's a lot of female rock stars that are ready to take over the world. And I just wanted to take a second to recognize that, because we haven't done that. Like I know I'm seeing it, like even today, I think it's all female, and yesterday it was all female speakers that we have on. And again, that wasn't by design. That's just how it happened. So anyway, I don't know why, but I just got to that moment where Darlene.
Aw, thanks for recognizing us.
Yes, thank you.
100% true. So Darlene, as we start to wind down, we want to ask you how we can learn more. I know Elise wants to ask you about a mind seed, even though you've delivered some already. I'm going to ask you a question that I don't know if I've asked you. I've asked this question thousands of times. I don't recall whether I asked you it or not, but I'm going to pose it to you because I haven't asked it since we started this run this week. But it's my time machine question, so at least you know where I'm going with this.
Okay.
But Darlene, if you could jump into a time machine and go back and talk to a younger Darlene Waye, and you just talked about the journey you shared, if you could give her some life advice based on what you've learned in the years since, what do you think you might tell that young Darlene?
Oh, I would tell that young Darlene that it's all going to be okay, but just take it one day at a time and just get through the day, really, because the next day is usually better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's learning in all of it. Like, there's tremendous learning in all of it. We don't learn easily sometimes. We learn by the hard stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I have to say that puts you in good company, because one of the things that with my TED talk about what would you say to your younger self, the whole reason for that talk was to share with people what the common theme was from the people that have reached a point where they can look back and be objective with it. And I have to say you're in the same company, because most people said if they got into the time machine at all, a lot of them say, I wouldn't get in the time machine because it would mess stuff up. But if they got in the time machine at all, they would go back and say, don't change a thing.
Yeah.
But then if they wouldn't get in the time machine to say that, just leave them be. But they said I would go back and say, you're on the right track. The things that you're stressing about now won't matter in a year's time, all that kind of good stuff. So your answer kind of echoes that, Darlene. So that tells me you've reached that place where you can look back and have that wisdom from it. So.
Oh, yeah, it has. And like, I can own it all now quite easily and really feel like I've survived lots. So I'll probably continue surviving lots.
Love it. So Elise, I want to throw it back over to you for your mindset question, which we kind of already see what it is. But.
Yeah. So I'll share a mind seed just to give you an example.
Oh, please do. I was hoping you would.
I know you were just waiting for that, right? Yes. So this is a go-to for me. This is a go-to. Anything is possible when you believe it is.
Yeah.
Like when we believe something, that is the beginning of every possibility. So that's kind of a mind seed and it's neutral, right? It doesn't force somebody to say like anything is possible, because like in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, right. No, it's not. But if you say anything is possible when I believe it is, it's true. When we believe something, we don't even have to know how, but it becomes possible.
Well, I look at this book here, and I tell my 19-year-old daughter, I'm published with presidents. Anything can happen.
There you go, right?
That's proof.
Totally.
Because that was the first thing that I had ever written, the first thing I was paid for to write. And I'm published with presidents? Who could have dreamt that? I couldn't have dreamt that.
People pay to be published with presidents.
Yeah, really.
You got paid to be published with
presidents. I did.
So that whole thing is a game changer.
Yeah, it really is. So a mind seed, like really, what the mind can conceive, the mind can achieve. And I know that that's a well-used one, but it truly goes with the work that I do too, because it's all about changing how your mind thinks, changing the thoughts that you think on a daily basis, really, you have to. And I have really good friends. Like, I'm not an expert at this, even though I teach this. I don't always think the right proper thoughts. So I have a circle that helps me change my thoughts too, like it's really been very helpful to me. Like, I have my sister who can always see the positive side of things. And I have many good female friends too that, we lift each other up. We are there for each other. And I'm blessed. I'm so blessed by these friendships.
I love it. And you know what? I'm going to bless you and thank you for being on the show. We'll get together after this and message each other. Give me your address. I'm going to send you a Flip Your Script band.
Okay. Thank you. I'd love that.
In case you can't get a hold of one of your besties right away, you'll have your own little reminder.
Okay. Thank you very much, Elise.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. You're awesome. And I'm so excited to have met you.
Wonderful. I am happy to meet you too.
Thank you.
Awesome, Darlene. And I was just checking one quick thing, and then I want to circle back and say that I missed it. But did we ask you what your website address is?
It's www.atlantichypnosiscenter.com. And center is spelled R-E.
Center is spelled R-E. Okay.
Are you going to go in the comments and put that in, Corey? Okay.
Yeah. I'll get that in there in a second. And so, so thank you so much, Darlene. Always a pleasure. Always appreciate your time. As Elise knows, I always end this with to be continued because I try to stay away from goodbye because it's never goodbye. So to be continued. I thank you so much. And as you said, we're going to have you on this journey with some books as well. And speaking, I won't go into too much detail on this yet because we're about to share it soon, but speaking in Toronto as part of bLU Talks as well. So thank you for being a big part of bLU Talks and all the great things you're going to do in the future.
And congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Darlene. You're the best. We'll chat soon.
Bye.
Even though we're only an hour away, I hope you're enjoying PEI as much as I am today.
I am.
Okay, awesome.
Bye now. Thanks.
So, Elise, I'm going to ask you quick question now. We had a question come in, and then I'm going to bring our guest on right away as well, our next guest. But we had a question come from George, and it was right as Darlene was finishing, and it's a big question. And I thought, well, we might, if we ask Darlene the question, then it might keep her on a little bit longer, and we might be running into her time. But it's a really big question. I want to get your take on it. I think I know part of what your answer is going to be just based on knowing.
Are you psychic now?
I don't think I'm psychic, but here's George's question. It's a big, heavy question.
If the principles of hypnosis,
I think you mean
hypnosis and NLP helped create current cults, how do we change these ingrained false ideas? Can you read it again? Maybe I need to hear it.
If the principles of hypnosis and NLP have helped create the current cults, I'll add that in, or any current cults, how do we change these ingrained false ideas? It's hard to speculate.
What do you mean cults?
Well, it's hard to speculate, and I don't want to speculate because I'm thinking.
Are we talking about the church and synagogues and Buddhist temples? And I mean, because those are cults. Like, what are we talking about? Okay, I'm going to just break it down. It doesn't really matter. Bottom line is it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, being, looking like, enjoying their life, not enjoying their life, none of your business. What matters is how you feel in relationship to the life that you're co-creating. That's it. And if you're looking at something called a cult and that's bringing up anger in you or frustration or resentment or insecurity or uncertainty, you already had that in you. Right? You already had all. So thank the situation, thank the cult, thank the person for pissing you off or whatever it is, and come back to yourself and eyes on your own paper and say, hey, wait a second. What is it about this that's bringing this up in me? And do I like being this way? It has nothing to do with what anyone else thinks, believes, claims as a truth. And this might be controversial for some, but it's the fact remains is that your perspective will always be your reality. And if something is poking at your perspective, then you might want to check in and see why that is. That's my answer. Is that what you thought it would be?
Yeah, pretty much. The only, and I don't know this without knowing the context from George's question, which makes it hard. The only thing that I'm wondering if he means, and George, you can clarify this, and after our next guest, or even during our interview with our next guest, we can chat with it further if that's not what you meant. But the only thing I'm wondering if he means is how do we, not we as people individually, but how does society, whatever that is.
Society's made up of individuals like you and me. Nothing happens at a societal level, to be honest with you. It might look like that once a bunch of beings get together and create a society, and then we look at it and say, oh, that society looks like that. Well, that society is made up of individual human beings with different beliefs, perspectives, truths, and so on. So nothing's going to change automatically unless we start changing and becoming the change one at a time. Political cults doesn't matter.
But he's putting in the desire for us to be unified, meaning
the desire to become unified has to start with, first of all, checking in and making sure that we're not looking out into the world with judgment and thinking that it needs to be a certain way in order to have it unified.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could keep breaking it down. We could go to the cellular level if you want, but I mean, I'm just keeping it like real. It's like everything this event is made up of. It's an event, but it's an event of individuals who are taking their time to share their perspectives and their views and their experiences with us. That's what this event is. So nothing matters unless you make it matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not being cold-hearted or saying, I don't care what's happening in the world. On the contrary, it's actually part of being the change that you really, truly want in the world.
Okay. I figured that might be your answer. Something similar.
Not as wordy, or maybe as wordy, but yeah.
No, I figured that may be your answer. And the other side of that, and I won't dwell on it too long because I want to bring our guest right on, but I'll just say the other side of that. And we'd probably have to have somebody else on to have a deeper conversation with this when we have more time. But I think the other side of that is from a person that's maybe looking at, I'm just talking out loud now, but somebody who's looking at it saying that I want to build a group of people to where we can all make a change together, because I feel like if I just change, I can be the change. I can be the change I want to see in the world. But I'm just talking out loud. But let's say I've done that for 20 years and the world still hasn't changed or what have you. Maybe they're saying, how do I change how do I unify people? How do I do that together? So maybe it's a whole bunch of people, like-minded people that all want to be the change, but that's still an answer, right? So maybe he's saying, what do we have to do as an overall group of people, being one, but working with other people to start making that change? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm saying.
Well, you become a magnet. Just like you're a magnet and I'm a magnet. I always say I'm a magnet for amazing people. I'm a magnet and I meet amazing people. And I've traveled, and we've RV'd for years. My fiance and I, we've been everywhere, every nook and cranny. I lived in Europe and in the Middle East, and I've always met amazing people. It doesn't matter what their religion is, their political views are, because I have claimed that I'm a magnet for amazing people. And I used to think that I had to share it and get everybody on board. I did. I really believe that. I felt like because I know this and I really, really know it, that it's my mission. But what I realized and what set me free to be me and be the magnet is that it's not my business. When somebody's ready to be connected to whatever they're going to be connected to, they will find a way to get there.
Okay. I just want to get your take on it.
Done.
Yeah. And I don't.
Rant almost over.
Yeah. All right, so let's bring on our next guest, and we can circle back to that too if we need to later on, depending on if George circles back with another comment, because I'm open to having the dialogue about it. But let's bring on our guest. So Jessica.
Hello, beautiful.
Hello.
Aren't you adorable?
Thanks.
You're welcome. I get to see your like little snapshot when I'm doing the like little social media bits, but like when I meet people and they're like really there, I'm like, wow.
She's a real person.
Yes.
Awesome. So Jessica, I don't know if you saw how we normally kick things off. We usually get the person that we bring on to tell us a little bit about themselves before we dive in deeper. So just a little bit who you are, what you do, your background, whatever you want to tell us, because we're going to dive deeper anyway. But yeah, did you want to tell us just a little bit about who you are as we welcome you onto the show?
Sure. So I'm Jessica Derksen, and I'm the owner of the True to You Lifestyle. So I am a certified health and life coach, and I work with women to change their lives by changing their habits. And it all starts from within. So your belief system, loving yourself, right? You can't create the change that you want on the outside until you really truly love who you are right now, today, in this moment. And so that's what I do. And that is my passion. And it came from a long journey of my own, of going through this whole process of finding myself and loving who I was on my own to be able to create transformation in my life.
Awesome. And so I guess then, if we start there and dive a bit further, what do you feel like? Was there a defining moment or a milestone or a catalyst that kind of brought you down that path?
Yeah, absolutely. So I, for years was told, when I was a kid, I was always told, oh, you should be a lawyer. You should be a lawyer, because all I did was argue. I was like the youngest sister. I was the one that just argued with everything, the why, asked all the questions. But I was always, after that, kind of said, well, you don't have the grades for it. You'll never actually have the marks to do that. And so I did eventually make it into university. It took me a little longer than normal, but I went in and I studied law, and I was like, okay, well, the next steps are law school. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to law school. And I went to write my LSATs, and I flunk them miserably. And my dad's like, it's okay. You'll do a prep course. No problem. You'll do it again. So I did the studying. I did the course. We took a road trip to North Bay, Ontario, and I write this test and I flunk it again. And it has nothing to do with law, but it was just so miserable. And I felt, just exactly how I felt my whole life. I was stupid. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. And this happened because these were the stories I believed. And so after this moment, I was in a really dark place. I was like, now what? Where do I go in life? What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to grow up, go to university, college, graduate, get a job, get married, all the things. And now I'm like, what do I do with my life? And I was really in a dark place. And I went to see my doctor, and he wanted to write me a prescription for antidepressants. And I was like, I don't think I'm depressed. I just am struggling in life. And he's like, okay, before you fill this prescription, try moving your body consistently for the next 30 days straight and see what happens. So just move it, 30 minutes a day, just get out there and move your body. And I was like, okay, this guy's obviously insane. Like, does he actually have a medical degree? But I did. I was so desperate for change. There were so many other things going on in my life that I was so unhappy with. And the beliefs I had about myself were so negative. And so I thought, okay, I need to change. Something in my life has to change. So I did it. And I started moving my body, and it changed how I started to feel inside. And so, I started to like myself a little bit more, and it started to build a little bit of confidence, a little bit of self-esteem, a little bit more every day, over and over again, doing this. And I started to create new habits in my life. And I kind of took a step back, and I was like, okay, if I, started this new habit of moving my body, what other habits in my life aren't serving me, and what can I bring, what new habits can I bring in to change those? And so that was kind of the beginning of my journey, my transformation. And of course, it's been many, many years, and it's always going and growing. It's a continual thing. But that was that moment with my doctor was the defining moment, like move your body. Because to me, that was about weight loss, which is something I struggled with for years. I had no idea how much it would affect my mental health and my emotional health. So that was like the defining moment. And when I was like, oh, I can actually feel good. I can like myself.
Wow.
Well, I have to say that's one of the best prescriptions I've ever heard a medical doctor give, is move for 30 minutes. So he or she was probably the most educated.
Yeah, he was amazing, because everything now it's right. You have an ailment. Oh, here's a prescription. Here's a prescription. And I hate taking medication. Like I just hate it. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I won't do this. He's like, okay, just move your body. Oh, it's that simple. Okay.
It's amazing when you say that, Elise, about a doctor saying something like that. It makes me think, which I've shared this story on here before, about the doctor that told my mom, remember, with the prescription, he gave her a prescription, and on the prescription pad, he folded it up and handed it to her just like you would a normal prescription. And when she got to the car, she opened it up in front of me and it said, don't watch or read the news. And that was his prescription. Oh. I mean, how many doctors say that? That was the only time I've ever heard it in my life. So I'm not saying doctors don't say it, but I don't think they say it often, because it was the only time I've ever heard it. So I love that your doctor said that, because we need, and I feel about, again, we talked earlier, uniting. So I think it's important that we recognize when people do that. And at the same time, it's not even a judgment if a person doesn't, but I think it'd be great if we had more of that too. I think it's great if we all can see the different angles, because it's like you hear these stories, and I've heard this from both sides directly, with chiropractors and doctors that don't necessarily see eye to eye. And I went into a doctor one time, and I told him I was going to a chiropractor, and he said he took this thing on his desk. I'll never forget this. And it was like all this piece of wood together to form a head. And he goes, okay, well, you go see a chiropractor, he does a little adjustment, and then this happens. And then he broke the thing in front of me and squished it and fell everywhere. He goes, that's what a chiropractor does to your body. And so I didn't know what to do with that, right? But my point is how great would it be if everybody said, you know what, maybe there's something in that I could take and learn from as well. That's just you say about a doctor.
Well, my doctor will okay, both feet on the ground. I mean, medical doctor with degrees, I can't even tell you how many degrees she has. And every time come in, center, make sure that the chakras are lined and everything's centered, especially doing energy work and working with other individuals. Are you clearing? Are you grounding? That's her first thing. She goes, yeah, you're out of balance, but that's because you're not grounding. And you're like, oh, I wouldn't think that, when you go to a doctor's office to ground. But yeah. Same concept. So that led you into where you are now. That kind of gave you, so you were on this journey.
Yeah. So after that, I kind of, I didn't know what I was doing in life. And my dad I'm from Eastern Ontario, and my dad flew to Eastern Canada, flew to Alberta, and was like, hey, my aunt and uncle live there. They're like, there's a lot of jobs there. You should maybe move up to Alberta. And I was like, okay. And I hopped in my car a month later, and I just moved across the country. I knew 4 people when I moved here, and I was committed to my health. I was committed to myself, to, really continuing this journey of building a relationship with myself. And so from here, I met my now husband, and I was working in a job that I really loved at first. It was in health and safety. So I got to work with people. I really love that connection and that education piece, orientation, and that kind of stuff. But then the budget cuts happened, and I was then placed in a job where I was sitting at a desk doing data entry. And a funny thing happens when you start to, you do stuff you don't love, you go back into old patterns and old behaviors. And I started to notice old habits and old thoughts coming up for me. And I was like, no, I was so unhappy. And my husband said to me, he's like, you need to make a change. If you're this miserable at work, it's affecting, the rest of your life. You need to do something. And so I read a book called The Passion Test by Janet and Chris Atwood. And I went through all of the different exercises in this book. And at the end, I'm like, I'm going to be a health coach. And I didn't know if it was a thing or not. I just kind of knew a bit about life coaching at this time. And so I'm like, I'm going to be a health coach. And so I did some research, and I found a school for education, and I did that. And that really led me now to where I am today.
Oh, it's perfect. All from moving 30 minutes a day.
All from moving my body. Yep.
I love it.
And so how does that translate into the work that you're doing now as well, into the work that you do with others? How did that catalyst moment translate into how you spend your time now?
So I focus a lot with my clients on, what's your mindset? What are your thoughts? What are you telling yourself every day? Because what you tell yourself, that's what you're creating, right? The stories that you believe, that's what you're going to have more of. So if you're constantly, and so I work with a lot of women who come to me to lose weight, and they're always thinking, I'm fat, I'm too big, I don't fit into my jeans, and and it usually follows by the stuff that they just really dislike about themselves. So being able to turn that mindset around into, well, what do you want to create more of? Stop focusing on, okay, I need to lose 20 pounds, and focus on who do you wish to become? Who do you want to grow into? What does this healthiest version of yourself truly look like? Okay, maybe you're moving your body every day. You're eating for energy. So I really use all of the steps that I took and brought that into my coaching world. And one of the things that, as part of this kind of mindset, this diet mentality of always, you can't eat this, you can't have that, follow all there's so much noise out there on the internet and through everything about health. There's just so many contradictions. And so keeping it really, really simple on focusing on your thoughts. What do you think about yourself? What do you believe to be true? How can you up level that into what you want more of in your life? And, journaling your food. That was a huge thing for me, just writing down what I was eating and not counting calories, but how it made me feel. And so was it making me bloated, gassy? Was it giving me energy? So really connecting my emotions, my mental state, my energy to my food, and eat more of the stuff that made me feel good. So all of that stuff I did for myself, I now bring into my own practice.
I love that. That is such a great approach.
Yeah.
It's a great approach, because I'm all about the thoughts are the food that you think, right? The food that you think, the way that we think is how we digest our food. And so I would go in and speak at these, organizations and groups and talk about food, but what is your relationship to food?
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and that's what you're doing. You're teaching people that there's a relationship that you're having with what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And food affects so much of us. It affects more than just our weight. It affects everything going inside in our gut health and our mindset, our emotional health, our mental health. And so really being able to connect with, how does food make you feel? How are you, and so many people just don't realize. We think, again, we live in this society where, oh, you have heartburn, take medication. Indigestion, oh, there's, all these just swallow a pill. But why not really pay attention to what you're eating, how it makes you feel? And once you realize, oh, this makes me feel good, you're drawn towards that. You want to eat more of the stuff that makes you feel energized, that makes you feel good. But it's just about taking the time to write it down and checking in with yourself. Okay, how do I feel now? How do I feel 2 hours later? And, just going through this process until you really have like a handle on, okay, I love this food, makes me feel great. This food makes me feel kind of crappy, so I'm going to stay away from it.
I love that. And then recognizing your value in the process, right? And making the decision that I want to feel good.
Yeah. And that's what it's about, feeling good from the inside out. I'm such a believer that we all deserve to live a life we love. And when we feel great, that plays a huge role in it. So why not feel great? And there's so many, beyond food, there's so much more to it, right? Your mindset, your beliefs, everything comes together. But I just think everyone deserves a life that they really, really love while feeling great.
And loving themselves in it, right? Because I find so many times people are creating these amazing lives and you're like, how you doing? I was just kayaking down the canal. We lived down the canal from a bunch of manatees, and I was kayaking and this guy's passing me. We're the only ones on the canal and it's like early in the morning. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, pretty good. And I'm like, if this is pretty good, I want to hang out with you when it's really good.
Yeah.
Because we're like in paradise right now. Like, it was like amazing. The only ones on this beautiful canal, and we're heading to the manatees. And he's like, pretty good. I'm like, dang, dude, I want to see you when you up your game to really good.
Yeah,
so
what does really good look like?
do we recognize how really good we feel in the now that we're creating? I think that that's something too, because we have the amazing lives, but how do we feel in the lives that we're living?
Yeah. And I think a part of living a life you love is being able to stop in the moment, right? Really paying attention, being present, and being aware of what you're doing, what you love so much, practicing gratitude, like really just soaking it all in. Because I think so many people, we go through the motions of life and we go through our days. We're like, yeah, I love my life. I love my life. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But do you really take it in and pay attention to what's going on, what you're doing, take time for yourself? There's just so much beauty in stillness.
Absolutely. And we all have our moments. Trust me. I'm at this beautiful retreat and this flip your script event is perfect today because I need to go flip my script because I have like all these sweets, right? This is a big problem. My sweets that I need to decorate for this retreat. And I'm like, I don't know where to put how do we lay it out in the feng shui? And I'm like, really, this is my issue? Is that I have to decorate this beautiful retreat? Like, that's my thing. I'm like, I really need this event. I'm going to meet these amazing people. So I want to thank you for helping me be present and recognize the gifts.
I love it.
I think it's really important that I thank you because I needed a little flipping of my script.
You're welcome.
But the other thing too, Elise, and then I want to circle back to another thing that you do, Jessica, or another bit of work you do that I think is a cool area to explore. And I mentioned it yesterday. But the other side too, Elise, is that, you talk about this often as well, how we also have to recognize different people feel different ways. So when you were saying that, I was thinking for him, pretty good could be your awesome. So for instance, like when I go to the beach, for instance, I love the beach. So to me, every day at the beach is awesome. Not pretty good, it's awesome. But I know other people that hate the beach and don't want to be there at all. And I was just watching Ridiculousness. I don't know if you guys ever saw the show, but I always say it's like America's Funniest Home Videos for adults. But it's on MTV. And there was an episode and it showed these 4 people sitting on a beach. And the 3 of them were all doing all their thing. One was playing guitar, I think, and the other 2 were drinking and all this stuff. And they were having a blast. And then they showed the 4th person and they had their like hoodie all tied in. And all you could see was like a little circle in their head. And they were just miserable. And so, it's even just that perspective, right? It's interesting how like somebody could absolutely love the beach and somebody else absolutely hate it. Some people love the mountains and some people absolutely hate it. So I lived in Western Canada for a lot of years. And Jessica, you're in Western Canada, right? Still?
Yeah, Edmonton.
Yeah, so I lived in Western Canada and I missed the water. But I had friends of mine that moved from Western Canada, Eastern Canada, and they didn't want the water at all. They missed the mountains. You know, it's just funny. Anyway, it's just funny how one person's pretty good as another person's mind blown. And so it's just, anyway, you made me think of that because you're often.
Yeah, I love that.
A lot of
that's a whole other perspective.
Yeah, it's just, it depends. I guess it's through, what is the eye of the beholder, that whole eye of the beholder thing.
Yeah.
But Jessica, what I wanted to ask you about was habits. You know, I note that you talk about habits a lot, health habits, but habits in general. And so I'd like to explore that for a couple of minutes because I think habits is everything in some ways. You know, if we don't turn something into a habit, then it'll always be hard to do. And it'll always be like, you know, a diet, for instance, it'll always be a diet. You know, I'm using that as the metaphor, but there's certain things that I've tackled and gave up on in 2 weeks or a week and a half and said, oh, that wasn't for me. But then I had to recognize later, I never actually did it long enough to become easier and become a habit. Like working out, some people love working out. I'm like, I want to get the workout done, but I like the feeling afterward. But I have to make it a habit. And if I fall off the habit train with working out, it goes away for a long time. So I guess that's a big way to ask the question. How do you work with habits with people and why are habits important? We start there.
Yeah, I think habits are important, first of all, because everything we do is so habitual. And so when we're trying to create change in our life, if we can make it a habit, it's so much easier. And the thing with habits is I think everyone tries when they have a goal or they have something they're trying to do, they focus on so much change at once. Like there's just so much to do. And that's when people usually give up and they don't do it. And so habits specifically is working on small changes every single day. Just one small step every single day will lead to bigger change over time, right? Massive results over time. But the thing about habits is, again, focusing on who you wish to become. So you have a goal. Let's say the goal is weight loss. Okay, if you're focusing on the number, that's just the result. You really want to focus on who do you wish to become and understand why. What is your why? And so I talk a lot about your why for everything that you do, for every goal. And I don't just mean, your big why in life, but if you have a goal, why is it truly important to you? Let's say you want to lose weight. Why is that truly important? And really dig to the root of it, because so many people, oh, well, I want to look good in my bikini. And then you ask more and more questions. And when you get to the bottom of it, the why is about connecting with their partner again. They want their spouse to be attracted to them again. They want to feel connected. They want to feel, improve their sex life, which is way more meaningful than losing weight to look good in a bikini. So if your why is to look good in a bikini, it usually there's the follow through doesn't happen. But when you can connect, and any goal that you have, whether it's a weight loss in your business, anything, when you can connect to why it's so truly, truly important to you at your core, then it's the follow through becomes a little bit easier. And then once you have this why, the really important thing is to get some anchors. So anything in your physical environment or a smell, a song that when you see it or you hear it, smell it, you're like, okay, this is my why. This is my big motivating factor. This is why I'm doing this. And it pushes you every day to do a little bit more to create that habit. So habits are really important to be able to achieve the goal, but it's what's underneath the habit that's really important to, get you going. And I think so many people think, well, I have to do this. This is my goal because I have to do this. I should do this. This is what my mother-in-law told me, or my boss told me, or somebody told me. And it's like, is that goal even really important to you? Because if it's not that important to you, you're not going to create the habit. It's not going to work out for you. And so if it's not important to you, that's okay. You can let it go. You don't have to do it. But so really finding out, is this something you want? And so, I love habits. I mean, I could talk forever about them, but important things about habits is really, really focusing on not even the end result, but who do you wish to become in this process? I want to eat for energy. I want to move my body every day. I want to be someone who reads, a book every week. I want to become this person. And it's kind of like mantras, right? The more you tell yourself that, the more you become it. It's the same idea. So yeah.
It's interesting.
And then also letting the stuff go. I mean, that's a lot of weight to carry on too. And when you let the stuff go, a lot of times the weight goes with it because you're not carrying that. I got to do it. Wait.
You can bring something new in.
Yeah.
So I have to comment on this. This is pretty wild, but I noticed that you have an amazing energy and you're a passionate person anyway, but your passion just went like another level as soon as we started talking habits.
I love habits.
Well, I shared this with Elise, I think, before, but I went to see Tony Robbins and he just did this NLP thing where he got us all to face the person beside us and talk about selling a pen to them, but imagining the best day of your life, like when you had your child or whatever that was to you, and then turn to the person on the other side and imagine the worst day of your life, whatever that was. And what he wanted the person that you're selling it to notice was you. your whole energy. And whenever it was the best day of your life, your chest was out, you were hyper, you were speaking faster and all those kind of things. And it was the worst day of your life, it was the opposite. Well, you just practiced all those things on the best day of your life immediately. Did you notice that, Elise?
I did. Well, I noticed that your energy just was like, you were in an inspired moment. That's what I call it. You were connected to your inspiration.
I just want people to recognize that, because it's important to note that we can bring ourselves there. We can actually, and that's what the Tony Robbins thing is if you go in to do a sales call, whatever it's, let's say a sales call, and you don't like rejection, but if you think before you go through the door, but the best day of your life, and get yourself in that energy, when you walk in that door, you're going to be a different person. But I was in sales for a lot of years, and when I walked through the door, before I learned that, I would go through going, oh yeah, here we go, another closed door, another person's going to reject me. And what do you think I got? More of that.
Yeah.
And so, but when I go in and go, best day of my life and all this, I would go in and say, how's it going today? Oh, I'm having a fantastic day. Like, it was a total different energy. And no surprise, even when they weren't looking, they're like, oh, well, I don't know if you know Jim down there, but they got like 4 photocopiers. That's what I used to sell. They got 4 photocopiers. You need to go see them, and I'll call and say you're on your way. Like, so they weren't even looking, and they still wanted to help me. And it was just the difference in the way I approached it. So you did a switch there, and I just want people to notice that that's possible.
Yes. Another thing too with habits, just to add on to it, is
for sure.
I think people always think our habits are our physical things that we're doing, right? Brushing our teeth, washing our hair, shower, like all those things. But habits are so much more than that. Our self-talk is habitual. And you can change that, right? How we perceive things. That's all part of our habits. It's all part of our judgments, our worldviews. It's all inside of us creating these habits. And so all of that gets to change. When you decide you want to change it, you get to change that. And so habits are beyond just the physical things that we're doing every day. So paying attention to the stories you're telling yourself, the way you speak to yourself is so, so important. And you can change those habits to,
you can flip your script.
You can flip your script. Absolutely.
That's what it's real. We have a lot more in common now that we're happy. I'm listening to what you're talking about than I really knew to begin with, because that's what the flip your script is all about. It's about being able to recognize the limiting beliefs and the limiting script, and be able to now redesign and reframe the linguistic internal script that we have that is at the root of everything.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts, Jessica?
Amazing.
Go back to habits for a second. I know this is talking about the actual action of a habit, but what are your thoughts on you hear all the time that if you want to create a positive habit, or sorry, I'll correct that. If you want to get rid of a negative habit, you have to create a new positive habit in its place. Do you feel that's true, or it's just easier to do? Meaning, like, can you just drop a negative habit without bringing on a new one? Because I hear both. I hear it a lot. Like, people will say, if you want a new if you want to get rid of that bad habit, you have to find a positive one to replace it, because you're still going to be wanting to do something with that. Or I've heard other people say, you just drop the habit. And I don't know, what's your experience and which one's easier?
So just drop the habit, from my own perspective, from my own life, and from what I've seen with my clients, doesn't really work. That's like saying, just don't do that, right? Just don't do that. Well, you want to do that more. Being able to replace a habit is so much more effective. So if you have a habit of after dinner snacking, just replacing with something else. Maybe you're brushing your teeth, maybe you're going for a walk, whatever it is, being able to replace a habit is a lot more effective, because you're filling up that time, you're filling up that space. So I definitely think replacing is a lot better than trying to just stop the habit. I think over time, no, because it would still be replaced.
No, I love that. I think that's, and that's just what I was curious, because you have the experience with it versus somebody just kind of, randomly saying, here's my thoughts on it. The other thing I want to turn around and dive into for a second as well is you have a podcast. Am I correct there?
Yeah.
So what has that experience been like? Because on my the other virtual event we do, the Amplify Your Message one, we talk a lot about podcasting. We bring on people to talk about their experience on that. But I think podcasting, I mean, obviously it's the new media right now. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on how has podcasting worked for you to get your message out to people and to help even, because I'm sure you have people reach out to you and with questions, or I listened to your episode and I love this about it or that about it. What's been your experience with podcasting in terms of making a difference with your audience as well in a different medium?
I love the podcasting. It was It's really about me connecting with people. And I love, talking to so many people and getting their stories. It's really about sharing their story, how they overcame a struggle. And so the most meaningful thing that's come out of this for podcasting for me is the comments I get back from the listeners saying, thank you so much for sharing this. I loved, so-and-so's story. I'm struggling with this too. I really needed to hear this today. So that's, the best part of it for me is when someone's like, I needed to hear this. I felt like you were speaking to me. I just got that message, a text message yesterday from one of my clients who was listening. She's like, I feel like you and Lisa were speaking to me. And I'm like, that's what it's for, because there's so many people who struggle and are going through something. They think they have to do it silently, or they think there's nothing else that they can do about it. And so when they hear someone else's journey, someone else's story, someone's success through it, it inspires them, it motivates them, and it gives them kind of, that little kick and burst of energy, motivation.
Love it. And that, that's been my experience with podcasting as well. It truly is the new media. And I feel like it's, for people that aren't into podcasting, it's underlooked. I feel like that people don't realize how big it is now, and it's only going to get bigger. I've heard the number that something like only 15%, I might have this a bit wrong, but only 15% of North Americans even know what a podcast is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like only 8% or 9% have ever listened to one. So, if those numbers are even anywhere near close, think of how much potential there still is for podcasting in the world. Because a lot of people get lost on the fact that there's, and I don't know if you guys know these numbers, there's this part, I remember specifically because I just was involved in an event where they shared it, but it's just now approaching 1.5 million podcasters.
Wow.
So there's 1.5 million podcasts on iTunes alone. And now, let's be honest, over 50% of those podcasts are dead in the water. Like nothing's been done with them for years. They still count a podcast as long as it's still on, and they never really remove one. But still, there's hundreds of thousands of podcasts you're competing with. So you're like, is there really that much potential? But again, when you look at the fact that only a small percentage have ever even listened, and yet there's still people like John Lee Dumas, who I talk about here every now and then, who has Entrepreneurs on Fire with over 1 million unique listeners a month, even though he wasn't a celebrity. It tells you there's still a lot of potential to grow. But anyway, I just wanted to get your thoughts on podcasting, because again, I think it's an underlooked and underestimated power in the world, and I think it's only.
Well, look at these. We get to, when we're finished here, we can get the video and the audio and use them for podcasting. So we got both. I love this format. I like being live. I like getting to meet people, and actually get to see, and then we can share that, sharing that, that's a video cast, right? Instead of podcasting, we're kind of video casting.
Yeah, I do record, even for my regular podcast, I record as video on Zoom, because two-part reason, and this is a side note for anybody who ever wants to get into podcasting. One, then you have the video that you can use if you want to down the road, and there's nothing worse than regretting that you don't have it. And I learned this, by the way, after going 3 or 4 years without using video, and I was like, I just did an interview with Jack Canfield, and I have no video with it. What's going on with me? Why did I do that? And I would do that with a lot of big guests, like Robin Sharma. Never got a video interview with him, and it was no harder to say, can we do it on Zoom versus do it on audio? So
we get video too, right? On StreamYard. Not that we're plugging Zoom as opposed to StreamYard, but we're using StreamYard right now.
Either or. But either way, recording with video means you get that. But if you don't record it with video, you can't recreate it. You can't make the video out of nothing. So for me, when you said that, at least that you like this because we get video, I even do that with my podcast, but I'm airing the podcast, of course, as audio. But then I still have that video for whenever I want to use it. So it's a side note. And any thoughts on that, Jessica, before I move forward?
I do the same thing. So I do it on Zoom. So I have the audio and the video, and some of the videos I've used for YouTube or for other different things. And then I have the audio for that audio piece of the podcast.
Well, it's even just, this is going to sound strange. And I don't mean to go down the marketing rabbit hole, but even from a branding point of view, with our other event, for example, I've had Kevin Harrington on. So Kevin Harrington's one of the Shark Tank guys. He's one of the original Shark Tanks. And then we've had Les Brown on, and Michael Gerber from the E-Myth, or James Redfield. And so then, and I'm not even talking me, but let's say my co-host on it, then she can take a screenshot of her doing an interview with Les Brown. And that looks pretty good for her website. That looks pretty good for her bio, to have that image there. And so there's all those other things too that come with that, but you can't take a picture of something that doesn't exist. So if you're doing it over phone or wherever, that doesn't exist. So again, the takeaway I would give anybody who hasn't started a podcast yet, if you said, what are the 5 or 6 things I wish I knew when I started that I didn't know? That's one of those things. That's a game-changing thing.
Video cast too.
Yeah.
Well, and videos way more popular now than when I started podcasting 10 years ago anyway. So it's a different, most people I think are starting to do that anyway, but do it. If you're not doing it now, do it. So Jessica, can you then tell us, before we start to wind down, can you tell us, I guess, how else sort of you spend your time working with clients? Like, what are some other ways that you help clients? Or if you want to go another direction, what are some of the things that clients tell you after they work with you in terms of what their experience has been like? I'm just curious for getting a perspective that somebody that's listening that might want to work with you. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big question.
I do one-on-one coaching. Most of the coaching I do is health coaching. I also have one-on-one life coaching, and I do fitness coaching as well. So a lot of the times my one-on-one clients with the health, they want to do personal training, all done virtually through Zoom now. So I do offer all of that. But one of the biggest things that I'm always told from my clients is that they never realized that they had to eat more food to actually lose weight. And I'm not saying they're eating crazy amounts, they're just eating more nutritious foods that their body wants. So one of my clients that I've been working with for years always talks about this, how she used to live off of an apple, almonds, and yogurt a day. And that's all she would eat. And now she eats more in one day than she ever did in a week. And she's dropped like over 40 pounds. And so it's really, and the biggest thing though, that they always come back to is it's about loving who they are. So beginning, but to love who you are today, to be able to create change in yourself, in your life. But you really truly have to start with yourself. It starts from inside and building that relationship with yourself. So I think my clients would say we do a lot of internal work that way.
I dig that. And, I have to say, similar experience. I eat a lot of small meals throughout the day. And right now I'm on this path now again to trim off some weight. But for a large part of my life, when my friends see what I ate, they're like, how can you possibly be losing weight? How can you possibly staying fit with what you're eating? And if I showed you, like I use the Weight Watchers app, not because I'm using Weight Watchers, but I love the tracking of it. So Shelly, my girlfriend, her and I went to a Weight Watchers thing, and we were going to start going, and we decided not to. But I love their app, so I just paid so I could have their app because it tracks it all for me. And if I showed you what I eat in the run of a day, you're like, "There's no way." But since I started at the new year, and I don't do the resolution thing, but I started near the new year saying I want to go on a different track. My calendar up there has my tracking of my P90X so far 6 days a week for the last 3 weeks, and then I'm tracking my food. And the food, if you saw it, it's just like insane. And yet I've dropped, I think, 6 pounds while I'm eating an insane amount of food. And to your point, but it comes back to loving yourself, but also the quality of the food too. Like I'm not going in eating fish and chips 3 meals a day or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I love that you said that, because I think that's a misnomer. I know a lot of people that struggle with losing weight and go, but I don't eat nothing. And I'm saying, and I say to people, it's not for me to judge, but that's probably why you're not losing weight.
Yeah.
You don't eat nothing. Your body's saying, I better hold on to this because you've only fed me.
I'm not letting it go. I don't know when I'm going to get my next apple.
Absolutely. Bird seeds in the last week. I'm not going to let anything go in case. But exactly. I love that you said that. I think that's so important. Elise, I want to pass it over to you because you have a question that you always ask every guest. So it's become like your signature. So I need to let you ask that question.
My signature mind seed question. So the mind seed, Jessica, I talk in thought weeds, belief weeds, and mind seeds, right? So we plant these seeds so we can grow the life that we love and love ourselves in. And so I always ask my amazing guests, if you had a mind seed to share with our viewers, listeners, depending if we're going podcasty or not, right? Would there be a seed of a perspective, a seed of thought or belief that you would maybe invite somebody to plant in their fertile mind within the next few days to see how that might start growing when they put their focus in that direction, as opposed to maybe, on a thought weed or a belief weed that they might have something to replant or replace?
Yeah, I have so many. So one that I really, really share with people all the time is, if you want a different ending, tell a different story. So if you don't like where your life is going, you get to change it. You get to change your thought process. You get to change your perspective to change your reality. So if you want to
you can just tell them to flip your script.
Flip your script. Exactly. It's the same thing. And me personally, like every day after so I'm like very strict on my habits, surprise, surprise, and my morning routine habits. And after I get my workout in my shower, I'm like in the mirror telling myself, I say the same thing every single day, and then I dance to a certain song. But it's so important for your mindset. And so I always say, and I think a lot of women should tell themselves, and everyone should tell themselves this, but I am brave, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am smart, I am courageous, and I love my body. I love myself. Look in the mirror and tell yourself that every day.
There you go.
Have you
And
seen?
look at her, it's working. Look how amazing she is. So if it works for her, it can work for us too. Right, Corey?
Yeah, and did you see the video with little Jessica?
No.
You know what I'm talking about, Jessica?
Oh.
No.
Oh, you got to check that out. It's the one that Tasia showed at. Do you remember her talk at Blue Talks, Elise? But she showed a video of little Jessica, who's like a 10-year-old girl or an 8-year-old girl, and it's a viral video where she's on top of her counter going, "I love myself.
I love myself. Yeah.
I love myself. I love my life. I love my family." And it's literally, you almost said the word. So I thought you may have seen that. You need to check that out. It sounded like when you were saying it, it was like came to life immediately. But what I also thought of is SNL, Saturday Night Live. When I was growing up, they used to have a guy named Stuart Smalley. And do you guys remember this either? He would sit in front of the mirror and he would go, "I love myself. I'm good enough. And doggone it, people like me." And it was funny because it was at the time, it was meant to be this mocking thing and whatever. And it's so funny how, to me, all these years later, I'm like, yeah, dude, get it, go get it. But at the time, it was like a mocking thing, like telling yourself, "I love myself." And now we've embraced it. But if you watch that old video, you would see it as like, when you watch it at the time, you're like, look at that guy, I love myself, saying all these easy lines. And now we're like, dude, he was on to something.
Yes, follow on. There's also a book out there
amazing.
called 365 Days of Wonder. And it's like a kid's book. My son reads it. He got it. He saw it at school and then wanted it. And it's a quote for every single day of the year. And it's so beautiful. And I think all kids should read this. And it's inspiring and motivating and really helps them love themselves and the world.
I love that.
And what was it called again?
365 Days of Wonder.
365 Days of Wonder. I'm going to have to look that up and post it in the comments. So Jessica, most important question of all is simply the big one of how can we learn more? Is there a hub or a place you would send people if they want to learn more, connect with you and all that kind of good stuff?
Yep, you can go right to my website. It's truetoyoulifestyle.com. Everything is true to you lifestyle. Yep. .com, and everything's there. Connect with me there. I'm very active on social media as well. So I think all the links are found there.
Awesome stuff. Well, Elise, I'll let you say your goodbye to Jessica, but Jessica, I just want to say thank you so much.
I'm going to say nice meeting you and see you again soon.
Yes, it was nice to meet you. It was nice to see you, Corey. This was amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. And I do this all the time, but I'm going to say it with you as well. To be continued, because I know there's going to be many more. This is the one of many. So thank you so much for joining us today and being so gracious with your insight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
Awesome stuff. So, Elise, I'm going to bring on our next guest right away, if that's okay.
I'm going to go turn on this light so I'm not so in the dark.
Okay.
Go ahead. You go do you.
Okay, sounds good. Lori. Hello, Lori. How are you doing today?
Hi, Corey. I'm well, thanks.
Awesome stuff. Lori, so exciting to have you here today. And I'll let you introduce yourself to Elise and vice versa.
Hey, Lori, how are you?
Hi, Elise. Good to meet you. I think you did actually a presentation with one of my students at one point. I think I'd connected you.
Really? We'll have to chat.
Yeah.
I'll have to think. I'm not sure. It'll come to me though. But can I just tell you, we've had the Lori trifecta over the past couple of days. You complete the trifecta. We had two Loris yesterday, and now here you are tying it all together. Right?
Hey, and, triangles are a good thing, right? There's
exactly
a point learned at each triangle.
Absolutely. Now, where are you in the world?
I'm in Airdrie, Alberta.
Oh, I don't even know. I should have a map.
It's just outside of Calgary.
Okay, I still need a map. It's amazing. I don't really think about how big Canada is, but it's obviously it's the length of the United States, so it covers a lot of ground.
Right. And, when we think about world, we think about our mindset in the same way, right?
Absolutely. Now that's a good lead in.
We have to think bigger all the time when we're thinking about mindset. It's not just about us, it's about what we're doing at any given time is a ripple effect to whoever's in our world, right? And our world can be large or it can be small, depending on what you're going through.
Absolutely. You know what? Absolutely. There's a mind seed right there. And we don't even know anything about what you do, but you just planted a mind seed for us. That's amazing. Well, I don't know. I just got your little bio, but I'll just ask the question, Corey.
Yeah, please do.
Would you share with our viewers and our audience and our listeners a little bit about who you are and how you make such an incredible impact in the world?
Okay, I'm a hypnotherapist. And one of the great things about hypnotherapy is you can keep taking extra training and add on to it. So I also became a dementia specialist.
Ooh.
So I worked with a doctor, Daniel Nightingale, and he's a psychotherapist. He's also a doctor, a medical doctor, and hypnotherapist. And what hypnotherapy can do with people who are experiencing dementia and Alzheimer's is there are relaxation techniques that you can do to help relax the individuals so that they have a felt sense of feeling connection. And that's really what everybody wants, whether we have that diagnosis attached to us or not, but we want to feel connected. We have that need for human connection, right?
Wow.
So yeah, I also practice NLP, and I've developed a program called 5-element mind mapping, which takes into consideration 5 different elements that I use to help people with their emotional mindset and their vibration. Because as I was listening to your last speaker there, thoughts carry energy that manifest into reality, right? And whatever we're thinking is also showing up in how we're doing anything in particular.
Absolutely. I call them the paintbrush on a canvas of the reality that you're painting, basically.
Yes, exactly. One of my favorite quotes is actually by Martin Luther King Jr., and it's really helped me in my life. And I'm just going to read it. I have it written down, and I don't want to miss anything, but show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself.
Wow.
And I believe in this platform that, Corey, that you have, and Elise, that's really what your speakers are doing. They're looking at their life and they're asking Spirit or Creator, show me how to take my journey, to show other people how to move out of a mindset of being a victim and to take that and to really empower yourself and others.
Absolutely. Mic drop.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so, Lori, one of the things, I mean, not to move us in a different direction, but I love that. But I also mentioned yesterday, so I want to make sure I don't miss this, but you've spent time in local theater as well.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that's a world not many people know about. But can you tell us at least why you got into theater and just a little bit about your experience?
Well, I got into theater because we as individuals have a lot of characters within ourselves, and theater is a great way. If you want to hire somebody that is going to make a mark within your business, I always say hire somebody with a theater background, right? They know how to take a character. They know how to bring that character to life. They know how to work within deadlines. They're creative. They're spontaneous. Theater has really helped me evolve within my own experiences in life. There's so many gratifying things to use from theater. Being able to be spontaneous, being able to speak like this, being able to be on stage, right? It allows you to find voice. I've also been working with Tasia. You mentioned her.
Oh, I love Tasia. Hi, Tasia, if you're listening.
Yeah, so that's kind of what got me into it, being able to really be able to empower myself and to tell those stories that we've gone through with enough clarity so that people listening at home or anywhere could say, yeah, that was me. How can I use that event, build that as a character, and be an even better version of who I am? So I've acted, I've directed, I've written plays for people with handicapping conditions. I've written plays for workers, for people who are working with it. It's really very cathartic. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Corey.
That's amazing.
It certainly does. And yeah, as you know, I have a background in stand-up comedy, and I often tell people that if nothing else, and there's lots else, but if nothing else, the stuff that stand-up comedy taught me about communication and being on a platform, even during all those bombing nights, like in the comedy world, we talk about when you I don't know why they use these words, but you either kill on stage or you bomb on stage. That's the comedy lingo. But I bombed a lot of nights early in my stand-up journey. But the stuff I was learning without realizing it until later about communicating, I mean, it gave me more of a school for communication than I think even my business career or sales career did. Like, I learned so much in the world of stand-up. And so, yeah, I love it when you say that these skills are transferable, and we don't always look at them as skills. We just see it either as a comic that's on stage because, whatever the reason is that comic's on there. We might say, like, because they need to get this stuff out and they're looking for an audience to be their therapy. Whatever we think it is, I think I've always believed performers, entertainers, comics, stage acts, whatever that is, are among the best communicators in the world because they study communication like nobody else does. And I've also done a little bit of improv, and that's a whole other piece.
That's my jam. I love improv. I'm like a freestyle. Well, you know me. We had this conversation. I'm a freestyle speaker. Like, when I speak, I had my fiance say, "Oh, do you want to practice with me?" And I was like mortified. What do you mean practice? Like, I felt like that whole like. So, and I tried to do that. I tried to be that kind of speaker, but it just put me on. This is what I love, Laura. I love meeting you, having conversations that sort of unfold in the present moment. And I feel like that's giving the viewer and the audience an authentic experience. If I had to practice what I was saying and I was on stage 100 times telling the same thing, I feel like maybe I wasn't being fair to my audience, right now.
Right. Yeah. I hear
So,
what you're saying. I'm also a member of an improv group. And even what you're talking about right now, being live and just coming on, those are little elements of characters of who you are. So whatever story you're telling, you were that character at some point. Right?
Now, is this improv thing online now? Is it something that I could jump on? I know they have a lot of meetup groups. My sister joined an improv, and they were out of, I don't even know where, somewhere out west, and she's in Virginia. They were in Ohio. Oh, I don't know where they were. Maybe it was Ohio. But I would love to join an improv group online now,
the
right?
improv group that I belong to, the general public could go and they could see a script that was already there. The actors would come and they would just talk. There was no script other than this is the character. This is a little bit about, it's taking place maybe in a spa, and this is your character. You're the cook. Go with it.
I love it.
And so that really is what life is at any moment, at any challenge, whether you're asked to come on and speak in front of an audience such as this, or if you're at the grocery store having, a very basic conversation, you are still, doing improv, right? And the improv is coming from you. So really know yourself first, right?
Absolutely. So when you work with clients, right?
Yeah.
Do you have, and I've been asking this question, seems to be a theme, is there a client that tends to be more drawn to you or that you attract more so? Do you work with families or individuals who are just kind of feeling held back from their limiting beliefs? Are they struggling with pain? Is there a certain audience that tends to, I don't know, show up more for you?
Well, generally I get individuals more than a family. I might get a family that comes together, but then an individual from that family then wants to come out and, they want to learn more. But basically they're people who say and do and think beyond their current situation. They want more. They're ready to learn. They're curious about everything in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the way that we should be when we have a quote problem in our life. I'm curious to know how that's going to play out. That changes your whole mindset. I like to talk about don't define yourself by periods, right? So often when people are talking, and part of this is NLP, will say things like, well, I can't do that, period. Well, your life is now defined in that little box. But if you change that to a comma, I can't do that, pause right now, but who could I find that could mentor me? Your life all of a sudden opens up. So don't define yourself by, periods, exclamation marks, put a lot of commas in there, and ask questions and be curious all the time.
Well, there's a mind seed right there, comma.
Right? And how many of us make our life smaller by our sentences?
Yep, I agree.
It's I just, as a side note, at least since you asked the question, and as you know, it's all about, question comes up, I'm sure the person at home saying, well, I wish I knew that answer too. While you, right after you asked that question, I looked it up, and you can go to Montreal Improv, which I put in the comments, .com, and take online classes.
Okay.
I'm not taking advertise for them. They were just the first one that came up. So good on them, because they took a paid ad. So when I did a search, it was the first paid ad that came up. So, but I looked quickly and it said you can take classes online now, which is only makes sense. I could see at some point stand-up comedy even going online. I think at the end of the day, this is a side note, but at the end of the day, it's all about how it's presented. So if you think about it, if you had a stage set up and you had a camera on you, I mean, the crappy part is if you're a comic, you don't get the laughter, which is what you feed off. But what I mean is you could have a camera on you and a highly polished looking stage and still do stand-up online. It's just again, can you perform without having that laughter? And as the audience, is it awkward not knowing at home, well, are we supposed to laugh at that part, or is that not funny? Maybe that's good for the comic. Then you don't have to worry about whether you're bombing or not. But what I'm saying, that's theoretically, you could see that happening. Like Tony Robbins did his live, whatever he calls it, forget. He has like 4 or 5 different events, but one of his events, I can't remember which one it was, Unleash the Warrior maybe, or whatever one it was, he just did his event. He had 17,000 people show up, and the him part of that, they showed him, and he was in this huge studio and had all the pictures or all the things on the wall around him showing all the faces of everybody there. So like the 17 different faces all on screens, and Tony's like, hey, everybody, and he's working the room, and it's like the filming of him looked like a HBO movie. And all he was doing was a Zoom event. So it really comes back to
that was like the Rise Up Challenge thing. That's what inspired this whole virtual bLU Talks platform, was that event that I was at. And this was like another event. I can't remember what it was exactly called, but it was part of this Rise Up World Challenge. And this event was a paid event, and they were on stage. They had an event. They were at an event place, some Coliseum, but they had everybody. There was hundreds and hundreds of people on Zoom, and you could actually see, and everybody was in different groups, and you could raise your hand, and basically the speakers were on stage and they were interacting, and it was like you were literally at this event. It was really amazing.
Yeah, so that's what's possible.
You can do it. I like the interaction. I have a hard time doing lives, like just going on and talking to my face on. I don't do a lot of lives on my social media, or whatever people do when they like do something. Like I need to have a conversation.
Right.
I need you there, Lori. I need to know, that we're like vibing.
Well, but that's also a conception that we have, really, right? That's part of our mindset, that we feel that we need people in order to be able to know how well we're doing. But really, we just need ourselves, right? Ourselves.
Yes, in that way. But I get, this is what jazz is like. I just kind of like it. I mean, I don't need it, but I like it.
I'll tell you, this is a weird tangent, and then we'll circle right back, Lori. But the wrestling world right now is trying to survive without audiences. And so when you watch a wrestling program now, what you have, there's 2 different approaches. There's the 2 biggest companies doing it. One, the smaller of the 2 big companies, what they do, which really works well, is they have other wrestlers around the ring so that they're making noise and cheering, and you get that live audience feel. But now they're in Florida, and so at least in Florida, as you know, you're allowed to have more people in places than others. And so they are actually, if they want it, they can have the whole stadium full, 5,000 people. But they don't want to go that road, so they have like 600. But you still can get that feel. The bigger company, which most people know, WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, which has been around for like 5 decades, what they're doing is they're going into an event and they have all the faces on the screen. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, at least you can see everybody's face. Yeah. A lot of people don't like it because they say it sounds like they feel they're piping in noise. Like they feel like the wrestling is trying to add to it to make it sound like the people are louder there and stuff like that. But before they did that, there was nobody there at all. There was no face. There was no nothing. And so you just had these 2 wrestlers in a ring and you could hear them go, oh, ow, ugh. You could hear everything, and it was awkward to watch it. But to your point, Lori, maybe that's just our perspective, because that's what we've always known. But if I was at the event and I was, for whatever reason, listening to music in a headset and I wasn't listening to the commentators or all the audience, would it be any different? Like, in other words, I'm just told that I need to be with an audience to enjoy it. But maybe with wrestling, maybe you don't. But still, the point is that they're not getting as many viewers on TV, and they believe it's because they don't have the audience interaction. Because again, we've all been conditioned.
Well, it's the vibe, it's an energy. Yeah. It's like feeling inspired and motivated. And like, you kind of, it's what drives us. It's that vibration that you talked about, Lori. It's about the way that we think and the frequency, and like all of those things matter. You might not see them, but they matter.
We're going to have to probably accept that this is the key thing. Depending on how long our world goes on the way it is now, we're probably going to have to we'll be reconditioned to a point maybe where it matters still, but we've been conditioned to accept that there's another way. That's what it seems like.
Well, this is another way. I mean, works for me. I've been working with clients virtually for 7 years, like before all of this, because it's just like you get to be home. I can travel because that's what I like to do. It doesn't matter where we are. People get to heal in their own homes, which is huge, to be in your home and have that transition happen. Like, think about that as coaches now. Like, we were just talking to, I can't remember now if it was the one, Jessica, or the woman before we were just talking to. Darlene. She moved into her home office. Right. Well, when you work with clients now in their home, think about the transition. Think about like them being able to transition from feeling stuck, right, limited, held hostage by their own beliefs, and all of a sudden have the transformation in their own home to becoming the being that they love. You have a new relationship with the home that you're living in now.
100%.
Like when you go to an office and the transition's happening there and you come home, you still have the challenges of the vibe and the energy that your home has brought up. But when you're changing all of that in your home, it's really an amazing gift.
It is. And I understand and appreciate what you're saying, but it's always an inside job, right?
Always.
Right. And so even though we, like you were saying, Corey, we feel that we're conditioned to have other people to feed us, what we bring to the table is already inside us. So it doesn't matter if I'm talking to you or not, or if I can see you, I have to come to the table with whatever's inside of me first, right? So really I'm feeding off of myself first, and I'm bringing that out, right?
Yeah, it's very ho'oponopono of you.
Yeah.
You're studying.
Are you hearing the tape that's going like the whole day? Like, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Like, I'm ho'oponoponoing everyone right now. But is that the perspective that you're coming from? Are you ho'oponoponoing?
Yes. Well, I have studied that as well. So yes, that is one of the perspectives. But you mentioned being a hostage, and I often like to tell people, it's like, oh, I'm a hostage negotiator, and people will go, oh, you work with criminals? And I go, well, maybe, right? Because who are we a hostage to all the time? Our own minds. So it's
that's what I speak of. We're hostage in our own thought system, in our own script. Yes. But you are a hostage negotiator. I love that.
That's how I like to.
I'm going to join your team. Your squad. We're going to start a squad. Forget the tribe. We're going to be the hostage negotiating squad.
What's great about that is it's a great. We talked yesterday. Somebody we had on said they just nailed their elevator pitch in 2 seconds. And what great elevator pitch makes, if I share something with you, makes you go, well, how do you do that? Like in other words, you do what? And so I think if you started it saying, somebody said, what do you do for a career? Well, I'm a hostage negotiator. oh my God, that's an amazing career. Great, let me tell you more about it. And then, so I like that because a person's going to listen up.
I love that, Lori. We're going to have a little chit chat. We're going to be hashtagging hostage negotiator and bringing this whole thing out to come to life.
Sounds good, because that's a speech right in itself, the title, right? I'm a hostage negotiator. And what does that open up within yourself? If we go back to the world of theater, all these different characters of whom we've been when we've been held hostage by a certain experience, right? And then how do we define that experience? By punctuation. Right? That's the worst experience ever, period. That's it. Okay, I've got nowhere to go from there. How do you navigate with your mind to see that, well, there are a lot of walls that you can go over and, let go of.
Oh, well, we're just going to disintegrate them with commas. Right? That's our superpower. What's your superpower? A comma.
There you go.
Mine's EFT. I call it a dental floss for emotional plaque. So that's my superpower. But I love it. Look at that. We just coined something.
Hey, yeah.
The other Lori had Zen noodlery, her Zen noodlery from her franchise. She coined that word noodlery. Now we're hostage negotiators. We're dream makers. I always say I'm a dream maker. What does that mean? Well, I help make your dreams come true. I mean, that's what we all want, right? So,
well, that's very true. But within the dream, like sometimes we need to be in front of the dream, right? And make that the reality. So sometimes when we say like, okay, I'm going to live my dream, are you really? But are you still chasing it, or are you standing in front of it and being that dream?
Or do you even want it anymore?
Right.
Or is it the idea of it that seems so exciting, but when you really think about it, maybe not so much.
Very true.
So we have a couple more minutes, right, Corey?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a big question, but so I'm coming to you when here I am right now, and I'm challenged with something, some limiting belief really is what it is. So how do we start the process? Do I call you on the phone? Do we have a consult? Do you work virtually? So I see you. Okay.
Yes, I work virtually. So give me an example of something that right now, at least, that you find challenging on just a small scale.
Well, I'm not going to mention having to decorate these suites because that's just trivial. So I would say, okay, so I have a version of me, and I don't talk about this often, so I'm going to be really vulnerable with everyone right now. So I had Guillain-Barré syndrome when I was 18. So for those of you that don't know, my peripheral nerve shut down. I became paralyzed. I didn't just have an accident, and I was like aware of my body shutting down while it was. So I've worked for years, and that's why I'm an EFT practitioner. I understand chronic pain. I know the connections from a now perspective, but there's a version of me that still has moments when something comes up that it's almost, and I find this a lot in my clients too, which is really interesting. When things start going really well, there's a fear that comes up that something physically is going to happen to me again. Like it's very faint, but it's still there. So I don't know if that's too big for you to tackle, but I find a lot of my clients, when it's very uncomfortable for them subconsciously to just know that everything's okay, because at some point in their life, they had a game-changing moment when they just were chill and everything was okay. Something happened.
Okay.
And for me, that was physical.
Right. Okay. So I would likely say to you, okay, so that element of fear, what was it that you were thinking about? Was it fear about going to the bank, speaking in public? I would make it a little bit smaller. Can you give me that? Can you give me, you're talking about fear, so give me a smaller example of your fear if you can.
How can I go small? Let me give you a different example then, because it kind of is small. It's just like kind of being able to trust your body.
Okay.
And I find it a lot with my clients too. I just I can relate. So just being able to know that everything is okay. So there's a fear of, if you don't pay attention or if you're not on it, and it's not even like a realistic fear, but it's there. So how do you make peace with your body when you feel like your body has sort of betrayed you at one point in your life, and maybe that moment's still stuck somewhere. There's still a little plaque there.
Okay, so that fear that you're telling me at the moment, so think about, give me the first number that comes to your mind when you're thinking about that fear between 0 and your current age. The first number.
Ooh, I love this. Okay, I know where you're going with this too. I would have to say 8.
Okay, so you don't have to share this publicly if you don't want, but what was happening at 8 for you, around 8?
Totally no. I mean, there was a whole change in my life. Parents decided that they were going to, separate and go their own way. And that feeling mimics the feelings that I have.
Exactly. So I would take that age and I would look at what was happening around it, and you would be detached from the emotion of it. And I would be able to erase that fear and take you into the future with something more positive, because the mind is always going to give you what you need to know when you're relaxed. So what I did was a bit of hypnotherapy as well, and I matched your breathing rate. Okay, and so you're relaxed enough, your conscious mind let go of everything, and it gave me a number. That number is a clue into how you took those stories forward in your life, and you defined yourself by that story at 8. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I intended you, because I just said, I need a me. I need somebody to me all over me right now. And you just meet on me. And I love it. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's exactly what I would do. I'm like, how old is that feeling right now? But when you were able to actually share with me that, and I could now be in the other side of it and connect. So thank you for giving me that perspective. And I will be clearing what's come up, because I actually can feel it. And I usually can ask, is it in your gut, in your chest, in your throat, or in your head? Because a lot of times, and I can feel it in that whole solar plex area.
Yes.
So I like.
Those are also related to aches and pains in your body. So that's another thing that I do with the 5-element mind mapping. If somebody says, I've got this shoulder ache, I would ask them, what's the first number that comes to your mind between 0 and your current age? And there's some experience. So our thoughts are our intentions, right? And so whatever
it's the physical manifestation. So I use Louise Hay a lot. I use her glossary. She's 99.9% on point. So why would I try to invent anything else? That's what I say. So I use it with my clients, and you probably recognize this as well. It's so much easier to look at something from a whole different perspective when you're not emotionally attached.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, I got this for you. However,
yeah. And you see, already I can tell by the way that you're talking, I can see, the changes in your face, right? In your skin tone, in your eyes, that you've made a connection. And again, it's all back to, what do we want in life? We want to feel connected. And it's not to outside things, it's inside, right?
Always
so we want
inside.
to make that connection. And so now, after today, and this session, right, your takeaway will be, I'm going to clear this up. And now you feel safe enough to go back and look at that without any attachment and go, well, that was just silly. I've carried it around for how long, right?
Absolutely. And you know what I love, Lori? I love that you can see the energy shift.
Yes.
Because I always say to my clients, you need to go look in the mirror right now. Go look. They're like, what? I'm like, everything changed. I'm like, your whole energy just shifted right in front of me. Go look, and they're like, they think I'm crazy. And they look and they're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I can see it. And I can see it too. Like, now that you brought it up.
Good. I'm there. My job is done.
Yes, I love that. I feel like we are complete. Now I can go decorate the suites and the retreat with a newfound energy. So everybody who comes to stay here, I will definitely think of you. Thanks, Lori.
And it's interesting when we say this, because you talk about the energy shift, and it's, again, I love when you can see synchronicities and things that kind of flow together. But we were just talking to Jessica earlier, and I noted how when she got passionate talking about habits, I could immediately see her energy shift. And I caught it, and then Lisa noted that she saw it as well. And then I think Jessica, once I said it, caught it. But again, you could see a shift. You don't always see that, but you could see it with her. Like, she was in her questions, she was passionate, but she was very, her answers were very sort of, she was speaking in the same tone. Then all of a sudden we talk about habits, and she was, talking faster and a different energy. And it's so cool when you can actually see that happen with a person. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's, one of the great tools, like you were saying in this world before, when you were mentioning the wrestlers, right? Tape record yourself talking during the day. I mean, computers now, you can be talking and they can be printing things, and really be cognizant and aware of how does that shift feel in your body and where, right? And that's the gift of this pandemic and everything that we're living in, right? It's been a real blessing to many people, right? To really being able to see our challenges and our blocks of how we've thought that, well, this is it, we can only do life this way, right? So everything in life that happens, it's happening for you, and there's a gift in there. You just have to be the willing participant to see what that is and take it further for yourself.
We're talking about acting. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Just want to bring up the acting thing again. So I talk a lot about, or I use an analogy that people can relate to. Like, you're the star of your show, and whatever scene you're in right now, you're co-creating. So you're the producer, you're the director, you're the creative, whatever, but you're also the star. And a star, it's irrelevant what the scene is that a star is in. There's always a characteristic. There's always a way a star shows up. Either the star is the victim, or the star is the villain, or the star is the savior of the day. So how are you showing up as the star of your show, which is your life, which is the scene right now that you are, from your perspective, creating? And so I love translating that into real life. Like, oh my God, I am the star. Like, am I the star that's waiting for somebody to come save me? Or am I the star that's creating the solutions and the opportunities from this scene right now to be able to, like, blow the lid off this thing?
Exactly. And there's your improv.
Well, there you go. So hey, maybe we should be hostage negotiators. That should be our improv troupe group.
Hey, that would be a great group.
Right? I'm in. Let's
That'd be a great group. So at least,
wait, I'm going to have you on the Flip Your Script Friday, and we should talk a little bit about that. And maybe we should do something like once a month, like, and I don't know, get some people on board and be the hostage negotiators and have our little improv.
I'm all in for that.
Are you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's not all girls only, Corey. You can come join us. It's open. It's an open call.
At least I know you want to ask your mind seed question, and I had a question, but it left me. But I'm going to get it to come back to me by the time I'll let you ask your question first, and then I'm going to see if it circles back.
Well, there were many. So I work a lot with, or I kind of I speak in thought weeds, belief weeds, and mind seeds, because we have thought weeds. That's what they are. They're just rooted thought weeds that became a belief because we
get over and over.
We focused on them and nurtured them so much that they became a belief. So when we pull these thought weeds and belief weeds, and I do that with EFT, like the dental floss for emotional plaque, I call it. Right. I always like to replace it so it's recognize, releasing, and starting to restore, right? Recognize, release, and restore your internal script. And we do that one mind seed at a time, which is a thought or a perspective that, when added or planted in the fertile mind and focused on, you start to grow a life that you are a little bit more sort of excited about and you love yourself a little bit more in. So if you had a mind seed that our viewers and listeners could plant, what would it be?
I guess that off the top of my head, it would be the words that we use. So, for example, I'll think of weight loss. A lot of people will come to me and say, I want to lose weight. And I say, no, you don't. Because if whatever you say, the mind wants to find. So if you say, I want to lose weight, the mind is going to look for that. It's going to see it as a missing object, right? So why not say, I want to restore my weight. You're going to be then looking for something better, right? But if I say I want to lose weight, I want to lose this situation, this experience, your mind is going to be looking for it, right? Because you've said it's lost. The mind has a job, I want to find it, right?
Absolutely.
So don't use words such as lost. Don't define yourself by the punctuation. That would be my mind seed, right?
Absolutely. Comma, 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 comma.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Well, there's two things now because you made
But
me.
no but. There can't be a but. There's no but, comma. The only but is with two T's and somebody you really dig. That's what I say. That's the only but you're allowed to talk about is a but that you think is really awesome and you dig the person whose but it is.
So one of the things I was going to comment on, which is it's really still fully, I'm going to say full circle connected to what we're talking about, is we had a guest on, because you mentioned NLP earlier, and Lori, clearly most of your life is surrounded by the power of words and communication. And
Right.
Lori, sorry, I was going to say Jolie is her name. Jolie was on and she talked, she's an NLP practitioner. And one of the things I noticed that she does that my friend Tiffany, who at least you got to meet, Tiffany from Ron Hodgson in Alberta, actually. Tiffany did this and I noticed her doing it. I asked her about it. And then I noticed immediately Jolie doing it. And I started doing it after because I was so impressed by it. But I noticed that she speaks in ands rather than buts. And so what I mean by that, what's that?
You can also infuse a however.
No, so her thinking on it is don't use however or but. For the reason is what she says is I use buts intentionally. So when she says but, that's when she wants to remove whatever she said before.
Because it erases it.
And same with however though. But when she says and, it means inclusive. So I love you and I wish you would change this. Versus I love you, but I wish you would change this. It's
right.
Totally different viewpoint. And it's an NLP thing from what she said on their thing. And so did Tiffany. So I was just going to ask you, you're familiar with that, I think, are you, Lori? And
yes.
I
I'm
believe
also an NLP practitioner.
I thought you said that. So that's why I was wondering. And Darlene, who we had on earlier as well. I think I need to dive more into NLP because I only know it from a base level. But there's the but. And once you, by the way, once you catch that, then you start noticing every time you say but. So that she would say, everything she would say, this, and she actually does it, and this. And then every now and then she'd say, but, and then she'd bring it up. You notice I said but there? But I was going and saying it, and then I would catch myself. And she said, Corey, I was beating myself up. And she goes, no, it's good. You're now finally conscious of it. But I never thought about the words and how the power of them until then. So I just thought that was one comment when we're talking about words at this level. And then what you guys just said about the periods and commas, there's a quote I was just going to share tomorrow by Henry Winkler from an event that I shared the bill with him. And I was chatting with him after. And he said, never put a period at the end of a negative thought. If you don't finish a thought, it can't grow.
Very true.
And I love that. So I just thought I'd share that quote for people.
Well, and it fits right in with what we were talking about. There's another way to use but in conversations and if you're talking to an audience and you want them to grow with you, you use and, because then they're there with the next step of what you're going to say. If you want them to really look at something within their life, then use but, because but can be the stop sign. Like, wait a minute, right? And it's like that emotional pause. So there are places where you can use but. However.
So I was going to bring the however in because a lot of times I'll use however as opposed to the but when a client's like, I'm really scared and frustrated and this hasn't worked. However, I'm open and ready to new perspectives, even though I might not know how. Like, so there's a however bridge from being in the thought weeds, basically.
Even though using what was the word that you just said? I'm sorry again, Elise.
However,
no, something else. When you were talking about your clients and they want to grow, you were saying something in there.
So if there's like, I can't do this because it's too hard and it's been so difficult. I'll help them transition. However, I'm ready and able, even though I may not know how.
That can also, though, work against a client. If you're trying to get a client to say, I'm open to it, they have to know that at each level they really are. So I find it more helpful to say, I'm curious.
Oh, that's a good step before, because I usually have them check in and say, how does that feel when you say that? And they'll know, well, I'm not ready to say that yet. But I like that other extra step that you just put in there, so we can ease them in even more.
Because you might not be
curious.
Right? You might not be open to it, but you're going to talk as though you are. But if you're curious, you're going to take all the learning and then you're going to decide. If you say you're open, there's already a limitation built within that.
Well, and usually a client feels it in their gut or in their chest. They're like, I want to be open, but I'm not open to being open yet. But being curious, that's a mind seed. So planting that word curious and leaving it neutral and open, that's the definition of a mind seed. Mind seeds aren't affirmations because sometimes they're forced. And you're like, you're trying to believe it in the back of your head's like, yeah, go ahead, girl. You could try to convince me in the mirror all you want. But like, that's not what's really going on. So I'm going to use that curious.
Yeah. Could you be curious about being open?
Mm-hmm. Could you be open to being open at some point down the line?
I feel, Elise, as we start to wind things down, I only say that because myself, I have something coming up in about 15. So I want to give us time to finish things out. And I want to find out, Lori, how we can connect further.
Definitely.
Having said all that, at least you should look into NLP because I think you'd be a natural fit for it.
EFT and NLP are first cousins as far as I'm concerned. And what I love for me personally about EFT is it actually puts the understanding and awareness in my clients' hands. And I give them now that power to tap into these places that they may have not recognized before. So that's just my personal opinion for me, is that I love the consciousness of being aware and that journey that we take together. And I have a lot of NLP friends. Friends who are proficient in NLP. And so, I'm open, but that's why I chose EFT for me over that, because there's a process that we go through and an understanding and a recognition. I think that for me, working with a client, coaching, I can lend to that and saying, see, look, this is how we got there. Here you go. These are the points. And now, create your own canvas.
Very true. And NLP would just take that one step further, because now as you've empowered your client, now they can really be conscientious of how they're saying the words and what words they're using and how to switch those words.
Right. And that's where we should chat, because that's where the flip your script coaching comes in, is like every word is a paintbrush on your perspective and your canvas. So we can chat. I'm totally open. We're hostage negotiators. Come on. We need different ammo to get there, right? We need a whole arsenal.
So, Lori, I promise the one question I want to make sure we ask is, for those that have been listening and they've learned so much about you, so much about the work that you do, so much about all the great things you're doing in the world, if somebody wants to connect with you, is there a place you would send them, a hub, Facebook, a website? Where would you normally send them if they want to connect with you, reach out, all that kind of good stuff?
I have a website and it's called The Echo of Yes.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, you can just Google that, put in your HTTPS thing, but it's The Echo of Yes.
Is it .com or?
Yes, .com. You can also email me at lori@echoofyes.com and I can respond there.
I'm trying to go to Echo of Yes. The Echo of Yes?
Yes. So my homepage should come up with my web page there.
Maybe I'm spelling it wrong.
Yeah, I'm looking it up too. I'll keep talking rather than both of us looking up at the same time.
Did you get it?
No, I didn't. I just stopped trying.
Is it TheEchoofyes.com?
Yeah. So the THE and then echo ECHO and then of and then YES.com.
For me, it's not coming up. I don't know why.
I think I figured it out.
Okay.
So the Echo of Yes, Lori, is showing up on your Facebook page, but on the website it's showing up without the. It's just showing up with echoofyes.com.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Got it.
Yeah, what I did was I Googled it, and then it showed up the website below it. So,
Yes,
so
in the right direction. I love it.
awesome stuff, Lori. We just want to make sure we get them to the right place, and I put it in the comments as well. So, Lori, this has been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would be. We've already been on this journey for quite a while, so I'm going to call it a to be continued like I've been doing throughout the day. But thank you so much for being so gracious with all your insight and wisdom. Thank you for being a part of the first bLU Talk book in the series, and for being the person that you are, and being a part. You've been a part of our speaking program and just a part of our community for a long time. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being a lifelong learner, because that's a part of it as well.
And I think you, and my 8-year-old thanks you too.
Oh, very good.
She will remember you always.
Well, it was great to be here and be a part of the hostage negotiation team today.
Oh, that's it. We're the hostage negotiation troop.
There.
We'll reach out. I'll reach out at the beginning of next week.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you both very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Lori. It's been an absolute pleasure. Always appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
See you, Lori. So, Elise, I'm just going to wind down really quickly. Like I say, just one of those days where I have something right at the bottom of the hour. Did you want to share anything, Elise, before we bring things to a close, or anything?
I think we pretty much covered it today.
Yeah.
Today spoke for itself. I would say if you're just coming on now, go watch the replay. That would be my suggestion.
Perfect answer. And I mentioned earlier, I'll just kind of do a bookend to it, but we just released book 2 and 3 with the bLU Talks book series. So if you're intrigued by that, you are just discovering bLU Talks now, feel free to check it out. It's on Amazon. And I say this not as a meing thing, but it's more for the people in the bLU Talks community. But the 2 books are both #1 international bestsellers right now. And the first book was as well. So this is a cool community. That's over 100 people whose stories are out now.
It's amazing.
So just wanted to tell people that if you wanted to check it out on Amazon, feel free. We have a pre-order site, but I'm trying not to send people there. I'd rather go directly through Amazon. But other than that, tomorrow we'll be back again. We have 2 guests tomorrow, and one of them is Kelly Filardo, who is my co-host on the Amplify Your Message event. And Kelly's got a really powerful, amazing story that she'll share when we talk about mindset and the power to overcome things. Kelly will talk about it when she's on, but she's a burn victim. She was burned at the age of 2 and had to face a lot of challenges throughout her life. And she'll talk to the kind of mindset she had to carry to become, at this point, she's a 5-time international best-selling author. She's a Goldcast speaker with almost 10 million viewers. She's a multiple-time TEDx speaker. She gets paid to speak in various places, and she's also an Amazon best-selling author strategist. And she's managed to do all this. And we always look and say, I have this disadvantage, and she chose to say, no, this is my superpower. And so I'm super excited to have her come on tomorrow and talk about that. And then we have another guest tomorrow. I'm just, when you do 5 of these, sometimes you go, okay, who's on which day? So I'm going to check here to make sure. Okay, so we have also Trish Bowie, and I'm really excited to have her on. She's a Reiki master. And so she'll talk about her work with Reiki and energy work and healing and all that kind of good stuff too. So she's got a really cool story to tell. And her and Shelly, really small world. She lives in Western Canada. Shelly and I now live in Eastern Canada. But Shelly actually got taught Reiki by her. Not her master's, but she got taught Reiki by her years and years ago in Alberta. And I was talking to Trish one day on Zoom, and Shelly was on the other side of the desk, and she said, wait a minute, Trish who? And she said, who's that? Trish said, who's that? And I said, my girlfriend Shelly. And she said, tell her Shelly from Lacombe, Alberta. Anyway, long story short, they knew each other fully.
Wow.
And they're both Reiki masters. So we'll have Trish on tomorrow as well. So going to be another exciting day.
Awesome. Well, have a great evening, Corey. Say hi to Shelly for me. Kiss your boys.
Yeah, I will.
And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Actually, I'll see you quickly tomorrow, right? And you're going to be hopping on a little bit after.
Hopping on, hopping back off, hopping right back on shortly.
Don't worry. I got this. Kelly and I, we got it. We got it covered.
Awesome sauce, as the kids don't say anymore. Thank you so much, Elise. I know they don't say that at all. That is not with it. My kids are going to be like, when they get older, like when even hear me say hip or with it and all that, they're going to be like, I don't even know what that word means, Dad. So that one's
woke, Dad. It's woke.
Well, I don't even know. Like it's woke today, but one of them.
We may not be woke later. Who knows?
Who knows? Woke might be a bad word later. Who knows? I don't know. But there's no such thing as good and bad, right, Elise?
Contrast, baby, contrast.
100%. Yin and yang. So thank you so much as always. Always amazing to have you as my co-host. We'll say bye for today, but not forever.
Later. See you later.
See you later. To be continued, all that kind of good stuff. So thank you so much, Elise. Thanks everybody for joining us. And we'll be back same time, same channel tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.